RDTDaily.com presents a Tarabuster with comedian Tara Devlin.
What's up, everybody? That sounds kind of weird in my headphones. You guys will let me know in a minute how it's sounding for you, because you are the producers. We have producers who are cats. We have producers who like to chat. If you are on other platforms, come on over to youtube.com/C for channel/Tarabuster to hang out in the greatest chat room in American history. So let's see. You guys will let me know in a minute if that's sounding okay, because we're going to have a very special guest tonight. Tony Brasunas is calling in, an author of Red, White, and Blind, a very interesting book that I'm interested in. An interesting book I'm interested in. What a stupid thing to say. I'm interested in the topic of media, and I think we're going to have a pretty engaging conversation, I think. And you guys can ask questions, too, in the chat. So, thank you, Jim. Jim says it sounds good. Thank you. Jim is doing double duty as producer, quality control, and moderator in the chat room. So be careful, because Jim is fair, but he's also tough. He's tough, but that's what we expect from the Tarabuster community, right? We're not kidding around. All right, hold on. Let me move that camera a little. All right, I see Steve, I see Jim, I see Winston. Nice to see you all. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been I have to admit, I didn't read Tony's entire book. I did read a large chunk of it, and I will finish it. I just didn't have the time. It's an incredible book, and also right up my alley, and he has an interesting story, and I think that will I think it's going to be a good conversation. So I'll save it. And here comes the producer. Here he is. He's right on cue here. Tara Jr. is in the house, everybody. So to annoy me. Oh, no, I can't say that. I love him. But it is annoying. All right, so I'm looking at the time. So Tony's supposed to call in at 9. So, but in the meantime, we have a few minutes. And we could talk about something that, whatever. We have the plug, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher. Gave the show a good review on iTunes. And also, I want to thank the producers. Where is this? Where the heck is it? I got we got some new patrons in the house. Guys, I will be sending you mugs. So I just didn't get around to it yet. So I want to thank this show. Where's my drum roll? Is sponsored by Florindo Scelti. I think I mangled that name, but it's a great name. And the show, let me say it again. Florindo Transaliti, excuse me. Florindo Transaliti. What an interesting ancestry you have there. You know me, and I love Roman history. What a shame, because I really want to go to Italy, and now they have a fascist running the country. That's pretty bad. So, yeah, I mean, Italy's an incredible place. I've never been there. I only seen it from afar and read all about it, the history. Okay, and also, tonight's show is sponsored by Kathleen Beatel. Yes. Florindo and Kathleen. And also, I gotta tell ya, we did get, let's see, I want to thank Robert for increasing his patronage. That helps fill in the gaps for those who have found, I don't know, maybe they want to go support Jimmy Dore or something. And speaking of, let's start with that. And because it'll ease us into the conversation with Tony, because this is something I saw this today. I saw that Jimmy Dore was trending on Twitter, and I was like, "What now?" Here it is, and this got on my nerves because there is a theme. Something else happened today that I saw in the media. It's another bullshit, both sides bullshit. But here's the thing that was trending concerning Jimmy Dore. Here we go.
Was in a comedy club last night, and I saw a comedian refer to, one of the, or he goes, I don't care if you're a liberal something, or if, say, you're a conservative free speech advocate. And I turned to my buddy,
producer did that,
comedian sitting next to me, who's a big lefty, and I go, did you know that free speech is now a right-wing issue? Because that's what it... Can you believe that now?
Could you believe that?
Who vote
I
Democrat,
can't.
That's not left.
Vote Democrat, tick.
Think that censorship's okay to protect people's feelings. They never get believed in. So if you're going to give up freedom of speech because it hurts someone's feelings, then it's not a value.
Oh, my God.
Because a value is something you stick by even when it's tough, even when it hurts someone's feelings.
Oh, how profound. First of all, what example? If you're a free speech, what did he say? If either you're a liberal, hold on, let's see.
I was in a comedy club last night, and I saw a comedian refer to, one of the, or he goes, I don't care if you're a liberal something, or if, say, you're a conservative free speech advocate.
A liberal something or a conservative free speech advocate. And then, of course, Jimmy Dore goes on to say that, since when is free speech a conservative thing? And I'm sorry if you're against free speech because it hurts someone's feelings. What are you talking about? Of course, there's no examples, right? He doesn't give us any examples. What do you mean? Where are liberals against free speech? Show me. Is it the speech? Because anybody can say whatever they want, you see? This is why it drives me up the wall when there's no specifics, of course. They'll just say, liberals this and conservatives that. Well, give me the example. What are you talking about? What do you mean? And because the thing is, if you're against, they're saying that liberals are against free speech because it might hurt someone's feelings. What free speech could you be talking about? Because you could say the N-word. You're allowed. Nobody's stopping you. But we have the freedom to have a response to it. You see, it is another example of exactly what I talk about with conservatives. They want all the benefits of civilization, just none of the responsibilities we have to each other. So, and they don't want to have any repercussions for their actions. They're just allowed to do whatever the hell they want, and if there's any kind of reaction to it, then they're being canceled. Now, and I think this is something that we could talk about with Tony, because he talks about cancel culture in his book. And, I don't know. Cancel culture, what's cancel culture? If you're a transphobe, if you're a racist, if you're a bigot, I don't see how you're free from the responsibilities of your actions, right? So that's how no one's stopping you from being those things, but no one is saying that, or let's say a private corporation doesn't have to host your hateful, bigoted views on their platform. Go to the town square. You can still go to the middle of Union Square with a soapbox, stand on the soapbox, and start talking about pee-pees and which pee-pees in the bathroom and who's, is it dressed appropriately and what bathroom it should go in, right? But you don't have the First Amendment right to post your hateful, bigoted views on right now Twitter. And this is what I have to put the producer back. Hold on. What is it with him sitting on the keyboard? Hold on a second. What do you call it? Not rewind. Lower that. What do you think? What's your opinion? Ron, thank you. Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Jim, for your super chat. I don't know if I said that already. But as always, and thank you for your what do you call it? Your being a moderator. I see you've already had to put somebody in a timeout. So, good. We're off to a good start. So, and thank you, Ron, for your super chat. That will keep the show going and growing. It really does. And it keeps me, from feeling sorry for myself. So I'm only kidding. So here let me see what you guys think. You're not even talking about the story I'm talking about right now. You're just having hey, missed you. Where you been? Yes. Play Dave says, the thing I figured out this week is that Republicans only believe in one freedom of guilt. Right. They want the freedom from the responsibilities. When there's any kind of reaction. See, we're not supposed to have a feeling about being attacked by them, right? Then that's if they are canceled, quote unquote, let's say that, or they're taken off of Twitter, then it's because all of us have had our feelings hurt. And that's not right, because they should be allowed to say anything that they want to say to whoever they want to say it to. And I'm sorry, I've been a stand-up comedian in my lifetime. I've never had to say the N-word in my act. I've never had to pick on a targeted minority group. If that's what you're doing, then, you must wow them at the Klan rally, but you're not really gonna be welcome in the front room at Gotham, right? Gotham Comedy Club in New York City. Or Caroline's. I'm sorry, you're just not going to. I mean, that maybe if you get a podcast like Joe Rogan, and I'm sure you'll find your niche, right? Because there's plenty of people that want to hear that shit. But it's lazy, it's boring, it's not funny, it's stupid. I have to tell you, one time I was at a comedy club and there was it was sort of like an open mic situation. It wasn't an open mic, but it was for newer comedians. And so they weren't polished or whatever. And it was sort of like middle people who had been doing it a while, but they weren't professionals. But anyway, one of the women I always remember this because she looked like a model, and she probably was, and her entire act was mocking overweight people. It was really fucked up. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I remember sitting with my friend we were looking at each other like, is this actually happening? I felt like I was watching some high school bitch, some bully rag on some underdog. And that's just not what you do. That's not comedy. It's not funny. That's why conservatives are not funny. They really don't. Whenever they try to do humor, it fails, because humor is about, first of all, it's about truth, and they have a hard time with that, and it's about kicking. It's not about kicking down. Kicking down on people is just being a dick. You're being a bully. You're being an asshole. Nobody wants to hear that shit. And that's what it reminds me of. So what are you talking about? You're being canceled because somebody's feelings are hurt? Well, give me a specific when that happened, when your freedom of speech was infringed upon. Anybody have any examples? I've been asking for years, too, on the show. Can somebody give me an example of Republicans, doing something decent, for example? That's right. Pookie's mama says, apparently Jeffrey Dahmer used to mock a kid with mental health issues. Yes. I don't know if you've been watching that Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix. It's pretty scary, and it's good. I like it. It's good because it highlights all the homophobia and racism that allowed him to get away with his crimes for so many years, and his white privilege, how he was let loose on the street. Again, that's why I think the show is pretty. It's not just like a typical horror docu. It's not even, what is it? It's docudrama. It's not a documentary. It's great, but anyway. But it's based on truth, but it's shown from all different angles, and how he was allowed. I mean, really, the cops returned one of his victims to him, and within the hour he murdered him because the cops were homophobes and racists, and they believed the white guy over the community of people who had darker pigment, saying, no, this is a kid. What are you doing? He's, they're like, whatever. You'll see it yourself. But, and Haku is in the chat. I see Haku. Yes, Steve says he likes it. He liked the Dahmer show too, but you should check it out. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, what were we talking about? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jimmy Dore. And so this is what drives me up a wall. So now there's this overarching theme of conservatives are about free speech. Okay. Show me. Show me how, or show me where someone's been canceled. And it's wrong. What are they canceled for? They never get into specifics, right? And thank you, Martin, for your super chat. Nice to see you there, Martin. Go get him, Tara. Well, with you by my side, Martin, we will get them together. That's for sure. But anybody on the chat, does anybody have an example of someone who's been canceled and, illegitimately? Usually it's because they're being racist, they're spreading misinformation, they're spreading the big lie, they're stoking violence, right? This is what's gotten people canceled. Let's see. Republican cancel. Let's see. Well, let me look up deplatformed. Because there's been a few recently who've been deplatformed, like some representatives. One was deplatformed off of Twitter for calling. Oh yeah, this is what happened. He said that FBI agents should be murdered on sight. Canceled. So unfair, because somebody might get their feelings hurt when their FBI agent, husband, sister, brother, wife is murdered, and they have to grieve their death, their needless death. Right? I don't understand. where are they being canceled so horribly? Oh, the other thing is, which is kind of chilling when you think about it, and not just when you think about it, when you don't think about it. And I meant to talk about this the other day. They are, as Trump continues to spread the big lie. Trump, let's see. Facebook is talking about bringing. They're having meetings about whether they should bring him back on the Facebook platform. And yeah, just in time for what? For him to put another nail in the coffin of democracy. So, free speech, like every other right, we have the right for whatever it might be, right? The old saying is you have the right of free speech, but you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right? Because you have the responsibility. So what, no right is ubiquitous. No right is without restraint. What right? They just want the right to be a bunch of dicks, to be assholes, to be racist. And that's their problem. They don't want to have to evolve. God forbid. They are asked to look at themselves for 1 minute. Why is it that you hate whatever targeted minority group du jour? What is it? What is it about that group? What is it about trans people that gets you so upset? What is it about gay people? Because when we are when we hate something, that's something wrong with us. That's what it is. The world is your mirror. You don't like it? You don't like what you're looking at? Don't fix your freaking face. Don't break the mirror. Fix your face. But, I'm sorry. You can hate any minority group you want to hate. But if, we can have a reaction to that, too. As the world continues to evolve, and you realize because you've never evolved. Maybe 50 years ago, that shit will pass. That passed muster. But now the world continues to evolve, and you just can't keep up. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you can't keep up, and people are sick of it. People are sick of taking your shit, and it's like, I told you that story before about, I used to work on, I work in television, and I worked on a show called Little People. What was it called? Little Women. Hold on. I need a drink of coffee. I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 20 years, but so it was called Little Women. Yeah, Little Women. It was about like Little Women LA, Little Women. I think they had New York was one. Little Women. It was on Lifetime. I'm not sure if it's still on. But it might still be. Oh no, it's coming to a close. The end of an era. Oh, that was in 2019. Anyway, whatever. So I was working on this show, Little Women, LA, and one of the people that I was working on the show with, we worked doing promotions for the show. And he said, he called them, the little, I'm not going to say the word, M word, right? You can figure it out. It's a slur. And he didn't mean it but to be mean. He was just, the little M word women. And I said, that's like saying the N word for little people, and they don't like that word. That's very demeaning. And he got all upset. He was like, God damn it. Not about, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. He was like, what the hell? What now? What do they want to be called now? What are they? Because he's a straight white man, and he was being asked to maybe evolve a little, and he was upset, and maybe he did feel like a fool ultimately inside, but yet chose to project it outward. You know what I mean? Instead of looking at himself for that second, he kind of decided, what about, what do you want to be called now? Everybody wants to be called something different. And so what? So the fuck what? What skin off your balls is it if they want to be called little people? That's what I said. They prefer to be called little people, not the M word, because that's demeaning. And he was very upset with me about that. But, look at yourself and evolve. And don't blame me. But, it just seems like that sort of the response to that some people have with, others finding their power. In a way. All right, I see that we have our guest on the line. Hold on a second. Tony. Can you hear me, Tony? Tony Brasunas. How do I pronounce your name? I'm sure you get that question all the time. I'm sorry.
No worries. No, you did quite well. Brasunas.
Brasunas.
No silent letters, just Brasunas. That's it. Yep.
And what kind of name? Is that Lithuanian? What is what's your background?
It is. Wow, you're one of the very first people that's ever guessed that correctly. It is indeed Lithuanian. And,
wow.
Very well done. Special bonus points for you.
Right,
yeah.
right.
I'm 25% Lithuanian, and the rest a mutt.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, you have a very interesting story and background. And so on the phone, we have Tony Brasunas, the author of numerous books. Your latest book is Red, White, and Blind. And what's I have it right in front of me. Truth about censorship, disinformation, and propaganda in America. And it's an interesting book. I love your background. Can you let's just dive right in and tell me about your experience with the Huffington Post and how this all began.
Sure, of course, Tara. I'd be happy to. Yeah, so Red, White, and Blind, the story starts in 2016. That's a good place to start. I was writing for Huffington Post covering the Democratic primary, and I was covering it from the Bernie Sanders perspective, so that was not the more common perspective. So my articles got quite a lot of attention. Often they would get 50,000, 100,000 views. Sometimes they would reach the front page of Huffington Post. And all was going well. I wrote about a number of different elements, the superdelegates, the various different states and the difference between caucuses and primaries. And I got into a little bit some of the issues that, were going on with the media manipulation and also some of the irregularities in the primaries and things like that. But everything was going fine. It was as we were approaching the convention and, neither candidate was going to have the sufficient earned delegates to just claim the nomination outright. So it was going to come down to the superdelegates, the bigwigs that get 10,000 votes in the convention. So I wrote a piece basically saying, look, Trump has won the nomination on the Republican side, and on, in polling, Bernie is polling much better against Trump in head-to-head polls. And, we have neither candidate has a clear majority of the delegates, and so it's up to the superdelegates to decide. And what I wrote about, basically the article was the reason that many independents will not support Hillary Clinton. And I went into issues of trust. And so I talked about a number of different issues. And I said, look, one of the ways independent voters make up their mind is on these issues of trust. And Bernie is way out ahead on this particular question. So I was basically saying, why don't superdelegates, you guys, why don't you go ahead and nominate Bernie Sanders? And I think we'll bring the party together and we'll win the election.
Yep.
So great. So I published that piece. And then the next morning, it was gone. When I went to bed, it had 30, 40,000 views, and then I woke up the next morning, it was gone. And I tried to log in to see what had happened, and my credentials were revoked. I wasn't able to get into the platform anymore. So it was done, and it was very strange. I had written a little bit about censorship before, but I hadn't experienced it in quite the same, in quite such a personal way.
That's incredible.
That's the beginning of Red, White, and Blind. Yeah, absolutely.
So what happened then? Did you contact? So of course you were working with the Huffington Post, and did they have an explanation why they took it down?
They did not. Well, so first what happened is and this is one of the things that I write about in Red, White, and Blind, that is a very positive force that is unfolding in the world right now, which is independent media. Because when I tried to find my piece, I found all these Reddit posts and these various people being like, "Where's Tony Brasunas' article? Where'd it go?" And they had tracked it down, and so I copied and pasted the piece into my Medium page, which I didn't write on that much, but I put it up there, and then I put a link to it on Twitter, and then when I landed in Philadelphia for the convention, I realized it had become my most widely read piece of the year.
Wow. Yeah.
Because people were just so curious about it and why it had gotten censored. And so I talk about that a bit in my book, what I call the Streisand Effect, this effect that where people want to find things out that they hear are censored. And it's a really good force in human nature, because it's one of the main things that opposes censorship, is our natural inclination to want to know the truth.
Right.
So and that's what happened with the piece. Yeah. It did. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you, and wait, hold on. Who the hell's calling me now? I'll shut my ringer off. Sorry about that. I was just agreeing with you, and it makes me wonder, because I was for Bernie during the primary. And I felt the same way. I was like, well, Bernie is a unifier. He's somebody who could get those Trump votes that Hillary and the Democrats try to woo by being more right wing. And because Bernie is authentic, and I mean, I'm not trying to relitigate the primary, but it's pretty chilling that that Huffington Post took your post down. To me it doesn't make sense. But I guess why were they? They were trying to do what? I mean, to what aim? To what end? To silence?
I have three theories, and I don't know if you care. I can go into them. But
sure.
What I did do is I have a friend of mine who's a lawyer. And he sent them a letter saying, "Hey, what happened?" And all that they did, I mean, they just sort of gave us a middle finger response.
Right.
Basically, they sort of copied and pasted some terms of conditions that was very vague, and just said, "Yeah, he's done. We're not going to reinstate him."
Wow.
So I have some theories, but I think. Yeah, I mean, it could have been what was in the article, and I can get into that. It could have been that, there's definitely something that goes on both sides of the aisle, in both primaries, where they want as many people in the tent as possible during the primary, right? They're trying to bring everybody back in. So they want lots of, 1,000 flowers to bloom, and here's Bernie, you can get behind him, or here's, remember Dennis Kucinich and Howard Dean, and and they bring people in with this sort of more, I would say authentic candidates, but we can use different adjectives.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, when it comes time for the business end of the primary, they want everybody to get behind the person they already selected. And they don't have any more use for not only for Bernie, but for people like me that were writing from that perspective, because we're going to continue to, maybe undermine.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I agree. I mean, I think history would be very different had, I think, they just taken their hand off the switch and allowed the primary to go organically. I think we would have had a Bernie Sanders victory, and probably in November as well that year. I mean, we'll never know.
I think so too, but we'll never know. But I do as well, because I think at that election was the outsider election, and people were just done with the Hillary Clinton and the establishment in that case. So, but even though Bernie's been around for a million years, he was definitely more authentic. But of course, the corporate media was saying how much, he's a socialist, that would be how they'd attack him. And now that's the revisionist history. Whenever I watch corporate media, they always say how Bernie would never have won because, he's a socialist, and that's that. So, but anyway, of course.
What's funny about that is that's exactly what they tried to use in the Democratic primaries. They say, people never vote for Bernie because
exactly.
But Bernie won all of the more. He won Michigan. He won West Virginia. He won Indiana. I mean, it didn't quite really add up.
Exactly.
The places that Hillary did well were the places that were the blue states. That Democrats would have won anyway.
Exactly.
She was winning like New York and Bernie would have won those states too. The difference is Bernie would have had a real shot at a lot of the red states and probably taken a few of them, and that would have been enough. So yeah. I mean, we'll never know, but I like how you put that. It's revisionist history. Once they can write the history, they tell you what would have happened.
Oh, they always do. They always do. Yeah, when I can't even tell. I mean, I watch the people who watch the show. They know all because I watch Morning Joe and it's sort of like I hate watch it every morning. I hate I don't know why I do that to myself, but I get my coffee and I hate watch Morning Joe, and it just drives me insane because they revisionist history everything, and it's really irritating. But hence your book, which is to me, I have a master's degree in communications and media studies, and this is right up my alley. And but I wanted, a couple of things that I saw you talking about in the book about being canceled and whatnot. Now, what you're talking about, that's something about being canceled. This was obviously your article that's canceled, and but when you talk about a balanced it's not about a balanced media diet. That's because, in my opinion, let's talk about this, because I do not there's no both sides to the truth, right? Was the election stolen? No, the election wasn't stolen.
2020 or 2016?
The 2020. What did Trump win the election?
I don't think we have enough. I don't think we have enough to know that for sure about 2020. That's my sense on that. I spent some time investigating that. I don't write about it a ton in the book, but I do cover a little bit about that. So that's my sense of it. It's that. Because, with the election machines, ever since, really 2000 and 2004, when the election was, there was definitely a lot of evidence of election rigging in Ohio in 2004 when George W. Bush ran.
Yeah.
But we didn't investigate that. And so kind of the issue of electronic voting machines has just sort of festered for almost 20 years now.
Right.
And to the point where you can't independently verify these things. They're all using secret computer code, and they've gotten worse, and they're now more. So in 2004, it was only about 20% of the precincts in the country used electronic voting machines, but now we're like closer to 80%, 90%, and so it's a tough one. I may have to write my next book on that question.
Well,
I don't have an answer for you.
No, I'm just saying I don't believe it was. I think that and I hear what you're saying about the electronic voting machines, because that was one of the things for many years, studying that, reading about that, talking about the the mysterious red shift in electronic voting machines, where votes would flip, but always to the Republican side. And also, I mean, we do know that there were some attempts to hack into the voting machines from Russia and then they in Florida during the last elections in 2020. But I think that if I don't think there's any evidence it was stolen from. I mean, Trump lost the friggin' election. He lost the first time too. He lost. He received fewer votes, and he also, but he squeaked by through the Electoral College. That's a whole other story. But I don't think there's both sides in that. I mean, they've had how many 61 court cases thrown out with prejudice, meaning like get the fuck out of here with this, and because they have no evidence. And if there's evidence,
again,
let's
I
take
think
it.
Yeah,
I'll see
so
it.
that's the issue. I think it's we should look at any time. So right, we should look at when people contest the election results of electronic voting machines, and we don't have the evidence to show them that it was accurate. There isn't evidence either way, and
Well,
so I think it's legitimate for people to be upset. And so it could have gone the other way, right? We're like, let's imagine Trump had won 2020, but it had been very close, and in a number of states there's all kinds of stuff with the electronic voting machines. And Democrats went and protested.
Right.
I'm saying, look, we
Yeah,
can't
but
say
they're
right, they're wrong.
Yeah, but
there's
they're not.
enough evidence there. And
But
so,
they're not. These Trump, like Giuliani, and they're not talking about electronic voting machines. They're talking about that it was stolen because dead people were voting and immigrants were voting, all kinds of bullshit. So there are no. This is not what they're talking about. They're not talking about electronic voting machines. But I know what you're saying.
So I'll agree with you on that. There's a distinction between voter fraud and election fraud, right? So voter fraud is when people say, that voters went to the polls and did fraudulent stuff. Like
That's
a voter
what they're saying.
went and said, I get to vote again in this precinct, even though I voted in 20 other precincts, or I'm a dead person, I'm going to vote. That stuff, I agree. That's been coming from much more from the right for a long time, and there's relatively little to back that up. I've looked at that pretty much, very little. Election fraud is the other thing. Election fraud is where votes are manipulated by the election machines or voted by election officials sort of covertly, and that's what you saw in Ohio. If you read, there were two great books about the Ohio election in 2004, where they were centralizing this stuff in central tabulators on the internet. It makes no sense.
Right.
And
no, I hear you.
So I think if you can pull those apart, I would say voter fraud, little to none. I wouldn't say zero, but little to none. Election fraud, we don't know, and I think it's naive to assume that there's none. I think it's very naive to imagine nobody would be doing that.
Of course they are. I mean, people are trying to hack into. That's why I always advocated for to have a paper trail with the electronic voting machines, which they should. So, but those are two different issues. Trump and this big lie is. They really don't have a leg to stand on. They're not talking about electronic voting machines. And that whole, that we've been talking about electronic voting machines for years. I mean, Brad Friedman's been doing a lot of work on that, and others, like... Greg
Palast.
Yeah, Greg Palast. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm just saying that as far as... that is concerned. In my opinion, this you might disagree, which is fine. There's no both sides to reality, So when you talk about I agree, we are in silos of information, and that's the fault of the corporate media. That's Bill Clinton signing the Telecommunications Act of '96, which deregulated the media and created these the monopolies, the media monopolies, where it allowed the likes of Rush Limbaugh and Fox News really to develop, and now people go on to. They'll go to Fox News or MSNBC. And I don't see, and we talk about it on the show too, MSNBC is not the liberal media. It's more left in a way. It's less, it's not, but it's corporate. It's all corporate. So that's why they're not for Bernie. I mean, if you watch during the primary, they were merciless against Bernie. It used to make me want to puke. They were so anti-Bernie. It was ridiculous. And they're anti anything. For example, they're anti-universal health care. The constant beating of the drum against stuff that the American people really need, And but that's just, that's that. But I don't really consider they're CNN, MSNBC. They're not Fox News, but they're more left. But they're not. They're certainly not liberal. And but Fox News.
Well, I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I would say, in my experience and my research, they are similar in the sense that MSNBC and CNN and Fox News, right? They're owned by there's 5 corporations that own all of the corporate media, and also a lot of the stuff that tries to look independent.
Right.
And so they each own one of these networks, CNN or Fox News, and their job is to basically be the red news or the blue news. Keep people divided, keep people outraged and divided over their side, and believe that their side is correct. And it's not that hard to do because we in addition, I was talking about the Streisand Effect, we have this natural desire to know the truth. But competing against that, we have this natural desire to stick with our tribe, to belong and fit in and not think of things outside of what our tribe thinks about, and also to avoid cognitive dissonance and to seek confirmation bias.
Right.
And so what they're doing is they're really catering to that. They're pushing on that. So when you flip on, like you said, you were hate watching MSNBC, or I'll watch Fox, I'll watch MSNBC, I'll read the New York Times, I do a balanced media diet, because what ends up happening is you get pushed into these thought silos, and they're doing it deliberately, and they ramp it up. So if you watch Fox, it isn't just the Republicans, it's usually, they don't even necessarily build up their party, they attack the other party. So if you're on MSNBC, it's all about how the Republicans are evil and Trump is the devil. If you're on Fox, it's all about how the Democrats are evil and Biden is the worst thing that's ever happened. And they just sort of divide you, and they push us through hate. They want to push this negative energy.
Right.
And so what I write about as a positive thing that's happening right now is, and I call it a new enlightenment, because independent media is sort of growing like the grass through the cracks in the sidewalk, and it's coming up everywhere on the internet. And what it's doing is it's allowing people to start to inform themselves outside of these narratives of the corporate media. And what that's doing is it's allowing people to start to reconnect with each other. And we really need to do it because we're getting very divided as a country. It's very important that's why I really push the balanced media diet, where you can start to just free your mind a little bit from this one silo of thinking and this one set of devils that you're supposed to hate,
right.
Instead to look at the world a little bit broadly.
Yeah, I hear you.
I agree with you that there's not both sides to the truth. There is ultimately one truth, and you can get there. But it's a little, we want to avoid the temptation of thinking our side is right, and our team and the other team is always wrong.
Right. Okay. So give me an example, if you have something, for example,
Sure.
As far as Fox News, where is Fox News right, and let's say MSNBC or CNN, where and they're wrong. You know what I mean? Is that a fair question?
Yeah. So what I do in Red, White, and Blind is I start off with the book with some things that are more bipartisan, or even I would say nonpartisan. So I jump right in with Jeffrey Epstein, right? If you look at the Jeffrey Epstein story, and both sides, basically, if we'd say both sides, I mean the red news and the blue news, he got off scot-free essentially for 20 years. I mean, this is a pedophilia ring, the worst thing you can possibly imagine, running at the apex of the power establishment of the Western world. Thousands of girls. I mean, just you can't imagine anything worse. And it went on for 20 years.
Yes.
So finally, this article, this very small journalist in Florida wrote this piece in 2019, and then it kind of finally came out. But that doesn't happen. That type of censorship doesn't happen because a couple of bad apples, or because Democrats are good or Republicans are good, or Democrats are bad or Republicans are bad. No, it's because the establishment media, the corporate media, is managing narrative.
Yeah.
In order for us to be easier to rule. Okay? And part of that is divide and conquer, but part of that is actually censorship and propaganda. So that story was censored for 20 years.
Yeah.
There's ABC News, Amy Robach on ABC News. She had the story in 2015, 2016. She had Virginia Roberts, who was one of the girls that escaped Jeffrey Epstein's clutches, came to New York. She came out of hiding. She did the whole thing, and they squashed the story. They quelled the story, and it didn't come out for 4 years. that's hundreds of more girls, right?
Right.
So the media is not, they're not trying to help us understand these things. The corporate media wants us to be uninformed and misinformed.
Right.
They're the purveyors of the misinformation, the disinformation. So I start with Jeffrey Epstein. Then I move into another couple of stories that are like that. Like I talk about the origin of the virus, of the coronavirus, and why that story was also censored for a full year, when it would have been very, very, very helpful to know from the get-go that this, came out of a lab, almost certainly. That would have helped us to understand how to treat it.
But do we know that? Is that what
evolve,
happened? Either way, see, this is the other thing with the coronavirus. Who cares if it came out of a fucking lab or out of a meat market, out of some wet, disgusting, market? It doesn't. What is the point? Who cares? It's we have it. It's here.
No, it makes a huge difference. So it would have made a huge difference right off the bat, because if we had known the origin of it, it would have been much easier to understand how it was likely to evolve, whether a vaccine would be effective, where it was likely to go next. So that's one big thing, and still the fact that it's still largely taboo in the corporate media means we're still not totally able to look at that. Many scientists are still not able to ask those questions.
Yeah, but it's not. It's
but
not.
You also think about,
is that true though? Did it come from a lab? Like nobody knows. We don't know. Do we know? And what would be the point of, hiding that? That's the thing. It's sort of like, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the right wingers are always looking for this conspiracy, as if in this case, I guess Fauci wants to control who fucking wants to control them? Nobody wants to control them. We just want them not to infect us and kill 1 million people. Like, for example, right now what's going on in Florida, they have this hurricane. They're not complaining that Ron DeSantis closed down businesses on the beach or told them people to evacuate their homes. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing in a condensed form. But yeah, sometimes that's what governments need to do. That's what we elect governments to do, right? We want them to respond to emergencies. So, I don't know. But as far as this lab leak hypothesis, what's the underlying theme of that is that something nefarious was going on, and that's what it feeds, that narrative of somebody's doing something to you and they need to be stopped because they're evil. That's, what I'm saying? This is what it feels like with the Republicans.
Well, I think it's important to have an adult perspective on this, that some people are bad and some people do bad things to make a lot of money. I think we don't necessarily know what it was. It could have been the fact that it came out of the lab doesn't mean it was deliberately released. That's not the question we're trying to get at. And if it was deliberately released, that could mean different things. If it got out accidentally, that could mean different things. But to allow it to be established, this happened. And what we know now is that the reason that it was censored in the news for so long was because the people that were funding the research in the Wuhan lab stood to lose a lot of prestige and a lot of money. So if like Peter Daszak, who was the guy that was basically the owner of the EcoHealth Alliance, and that was the organization through which the money was funneled from the NIH to the Wuhan lab, if it comes out that the virus came out of that lab, this guy, Peter Daszak, who's a very powerful, prestigious guy, he's always being quoted in the media, he's going to look a lot worse, right? And it would ruin his career. That's the least of the concerns, right? There's also, like, could he be culpable for, like, this virus getting out that's, been, just killed thousands and thousands, millions of people, right? So it's a big deal. It's not a...
but there's no evidence.
I recommend not seeing it as a right-left thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
We need to know if governments all over have experimented with biological weapons and chemical weapons and nuclear weapons. You have to realize that that's going on.
Yes.
The fact that they're doing gain-of-function research, which is deliberately trying to make viruses more lethal, more deadly, we should be really concerned about that.
But we don't. Is that what was happening? There's no substantial evidence for that. How do you know?
There's this really interesting book.
This is what I'm saying.
It's like knowing Jeffrey Epstein, right? So there's a really interesting book that I recommend. It's called what's the name of it? I think it's called Viral. It's called Viral, and it's this a couple of scientists that look directly at this question. And one of them, she's an MIT scientist, and her name's Alina Chan. And she did this great interview, and she said, when we found the grant to do gain-of-function research in this lab on bats, on coronaviruses, she said it would be like finding a grant to put horns on horses, and then a year later you find unicorns running around in Wuhan.
Okay.
It just doesn't make it. It's such a huge coincidence. It's such a huge leap. And now we know that the lab, they destroyed the evidence. We know that, it's in the same city. It's the biggest lab in the country. There's just continuously, I've been writing about this now for 3 years. Well, not the book for 3 years, but the leak of the virus since, midway through 2020. It's just more and more evidence keeps coming out that supports that. And no more evidence has come out supporting.
But where?
The
see,
market.
okay, I don't want to. I don't, since it's not my wheelhouse. I haven't been doing research on it, but I don't. Where are you saying that there's an evidence of some thing came out? Gain of function research grant came out. Where are you getting this information? Because I'm reading in other articles that say first of all, it took 14 years to figure out where SARS came from. They're not going to really, it takes time to do the actual investigation, right? But where is this this thing you're talking about? Like, how come this isn't in the New York Times? But you're saying, so this is,
That's right.
see, to me, that sounds like a conspiracy theory now, because the fact is, yeah, I understand people are greedy, people have their self-interests at heart, and many are, disgusting, like Jeffrey Epstein. He's a fucking disgusting, narcissist, sociopath, and yes, he was protected for many years because he's rich and he was powerful and connected to a lot of people. So, but, and I think that he committed suicide? I don't. I think it's kind of coincidental that all the cameras went out when he, when he was supposedly committed suicide. Everybody just happened to go for a coffee break and all the cameras went, you know what I mean? So, but, okay, that's one guy. But what, okay, so now it's, so that you're saying that the left media is censoring Jeffrey Epstein, the Jeffrey Epstein story, and the left media, whatever, the corporate media, is censoring the origins of the coronavirus pandemic. Is that so? Those are the two things you're saying, are that the right gets
those
right?
Those are the first two stories that those are the first two stories that I jump into, because I think they're fairly. I don't think they're controversial. It sounds like maybe the second one is still controversial to you, but I think they're fairly non-controversial relative to, rather than picking issues that are clearly controversial, that would be clearly one side versus the other is going to think is true. I think in both instances it's very clear that there was huge censorship that was really problematic for society as a whole, and so. So jumping off from those two, I say, look, this wasn't done on the right or on the left. This was done across the mainstream corporate media, and this is signs of what I call, so I distinguish censorship, propaganda, and bias. These are signs of different types of media manipulation in our country. And so the whole book is basically, and sort of what I'm talking about, is using a balanced media diet to attain a state where we are able to see through some of these media narratives that are false and that are deceiving us. Mm-hmm. And that is an important part of being an American today. That's my belief. I think that this distortion that's in our mainstream media, both the left media and the right, is the largest, most destructive kind of deception we face right now. It's as destructive as the deception our own self-deception that we have in our life, where we, have these voices in our head telling us things about, what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do with our life, and these kinds of messages we get from our parents and all that kind of stuff that you can use psychotherapy to understand, or you can use meditation, or, you can sort of reach a place where you get beyond that kind of self-deception. I think the same type of deception is going on. We just don't look at it as much, coming from without, coming from these large media corporations that want us to think a particular way. And so, to begin with, I use some stories like that to say, look, this story was clearly manipulated and distorted, and why? And that's sort of a jumping off.
Right. But I just say, I mean, those two stories, those are very, it's not really political stories, it's just kind of a couple of stories that are, I guess, being treated differently. Because even the Jeffrey Epstein story, as far as the right wing, right? So I guess it's getting more attention on the right wing because they're saying that it's because of the Clintons. The Clintons are corrupt, and this is why they killed Jeffrey Epstein. That's the narrative, right? So they had somebody else killed, like everybody else they've killed supposedly, and it just, I don't know. That doesn't feel like, okay, why do I want a balanced diet of some fucking bullshit? Like, why am I going to Fox News? Like, I don't need to tan my balls, and right now, what's his name? Tucker Carlson is talking about how Joe Biden was the one who blew up the pipeline and the Russian pipelines. It's all this nefarious undercurrent shit that Democrats are evil, and there's this whole secret society that's actually fucking, committing murders and trying to kill everybody. It's I don't know. To me, I don't know.
Well,
So
my experience, as I mentioned, I come from the progressive side of the Democratic Party. I was very active in the Green Party, and I was active with Bernie Sanders. And writing this book was interesting because I think I started out writing the book just going to sort of with a nonpartisan perspective, looking at these different stories, and I was expecting to find a lot more bias in the direction that you're talking about. What I have ended up finding in the book is that the side that you think, it sounds like, that you believe is really weaving these sort of outrageous theories is similar. I mean, there are a lot of stories that I went in thinking I was going to find that the Democratic, blue media was right and the red media was wrong, and I found the opposite.
Like what? Give us an example, if you can. If you have one handy.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And I guess before I do that, I just wanted to point that out, that the point of a balanced media diet is not that you're going to change your mind. You don't have to change your mind. Like, let's say, you have a really strong view on abortion or on gun control or one of these sort of hot-button topics. It doesn't mean that by reading or watching the other side, you're going to then suddenly have to change your mind. It just means that you'll be able to understand the other side's viewpoint. Like, okay, I can understand how you have a different view on abortion or gun control or free speech or religion or whatever these things are. And now I'm not going to hate you, right? Now I can again talk to my uncle or my aunt or my daughter or my husband, It's kind of that idea is a big part of the balanced media diet. That's one big part of it. The other part is training our own mind to be able to see false narratives for what they are.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what are some things? Like the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Oh, God.
That one I went in. The censorship by Twitter, I was thinking I was going to go in and say, okay, so Twitter was probably right to censor this because this was going to, this was fake news that was going to swing the election. And what I found is that the fact that the laptop surfaced and did have all of this information, basically, there's no reason that story should have been.
Well, let me ask you then, so you know about this laptop. So what is the big fucking deal about this laptop, supposedly? That's the evil laptop I keep hearing from that's how they describe it.
Sure. So sure. So the basic story is there's some reason to believe, and more people obviously on the right believe this than on the left, but that Joe Biden was, when he was vice president with Barack Obama, he had interactions with Ukraine where he was basically helping Burisma, this Ukraine company, which was corrupt and was getting investigated, and he helped to end the investigation. And as part of
that is bullshit right off the bat, right there, because the entire Western democratic world, it wasn't Biden ending an investigation. It was the Burisma was corrupt. That's what was happening, and they were telling it to get its act together. It wasn't Biden. He was just trying to. This is why it's insanity making, because they'll take a grain of truth and it becomes this thing now. Hunter Biden's laptop. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Let me just finish what's on the laptop. Yeah, it's okay. No, I understand. So basically, so what was left though? So Hunter Biden got this position on the board, right? Where he was being paid. There's different reports. Some are $50,000 a month, $80,000 a month. I've heard different numbers, but some huge amount of money.
Right.
And Hunter Biden, I don't know if anybody on the left or right wants to defend him. I mean, he's clearly, is really into drugs and prostitutes and whatever.
Not anymore. I mean, he's clean now. He's in recovery. This is the thing. This is the other thing that gets on my nerves, because he's not into drugs and prostitutes now. He talked openly about his struggles with addiction, and he's clean and sober now, and they use that. It's just really dirty, frankly, and disgusting. It's like, so was Glenn Beck, so was Rush Limbaugh. So it's like going back into somebody's worst moments and continuously using that as an excuse. It's because he had the courage, frankly, to to share his experiences with addiction, and he's not on drugs now. So anyway,
I don't know. Maybe he isn't. I'm not certain about that. What was supposedly on the laptop is, so he leaves the laptop at some like tech company, like little tech store that's going to work on his laptop, and he forgets about it, leaves it there. And so the owner of the laptop store basically pulls the data off, and he realizes that there's some stuff on there. He gives it to, I think, the FBI and a couple of journalists. And so basically what's unclear at that point, so Hunter Biden is on the board of Burisma, and he's making $50,000 or $80,000 a year. He doesn't obviously offer anything really to the board, or maybe there's something, but it's hard.
No, he offers connections. So it's a rich person. Yeah, it's like it's like Lauren Boebert's husband is being paid $500,000 to sit on the board of an oil company, something she neglected to report in her financial disclosures, but that's okay too. And he has zero background in this, except for the fact that his wife is now a representative. And it's the same thing. No one is saying that that it's great. It's not good. It's a sign of how corrupt the world is. What a rich and powerful person's son gets to have a cushy job for no experience. I mean, that's the story, in my opinion. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I keep interrupting, but
what? Yeah, no, it's okay. The story. I think if we keep this story about censorship, I think it's a little bit of a clear. I think it's a clear story to discuss, rather than trying to compare again the red and the blue. And so the question is, whether or not the investigation into Burisma was shut down because Hunter Biden was on the board and asked his dad to do it, was Joe Biden. That's the allegation, right? The allegation. But there's some missing dots there, right? There was no clear evidence that Hunter Biden basically had asked his father to do it, and that on behalf of his son, Joe Biden had gone to Ukraine and said, stop this investigation. So what basically was on the laptop was a number of emails from Hunter Biden, basically that had come from people at Burisma, basically saying, "Thank you for that nice trip to Washington." And the dates of those emails kind of fit into the narrative, fit into the timeline of when Hunter Biden would have introduced Burisma officials to Joe Biden in order for Joe Biden to then go, and then Joe Biden bragged to the Council on Foreign Relations that he withheld a $1 billion grant to Ukraine based on them stopping this investigation. Right? So the point is, it's like, whether it's true or not, there is something to this story. So
it sounds like it's just more shit that makes my brain want to explode, because what happened was, it wasn't Joe Biden stopping this. It was the entire Democratic NATO coalition of Democratic countries that they wanted this prosecutor removed because he wasn't prosecuting and investigating Burisma. That was the thing. He was dragging his feet and not doing his job to, regardless of whether Hunter Biden's son was on his son was on the board of this company. So it was actually against Joe Biden's interest or his son's interest. And that's why he was bragging and saying, "I told them we're not giving you the funding until you got rid of this prosecutor." The one who was, and they put in somebody to fucking prosecute the case. It was like, it's the same thing.
So that's the other side. So that's the other side of the story, is that narrative.
The truth.
Which is one side of the story. So you have, so Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe.
Now, yes.
All kinds of stuff going on.
But that's part of why Zelensky got elected. They got the Ukraine was a notoriously corrupt country where everything you had to do was you needed. That's why people were sick of it. If you needed to have the cable guy come over, you had to bribe them. Everything was bribed under the table. And people were sick of it, and that's part of why Zelensky was elected on a platform to get rid of this corruption and undo, and that's what they're trying to do. And their democracy is a fledgling one as far as that is concerned. But yeah, I mean, I could see how all of it makes my head want to explode.
The point is with this story is rather than getting into Ukraine, is that it sounds like you want to. Are you interested in defending the censorship of this story on the eve of the election?
What's the censorship of what? Of the Hunter Biden story? But I mean, is it censorship, or is it just like we have fucking real shit to talk about? We don't want to talk about this stupid laptop until.
It's censorship. If you take something down, right? If Twitter censored this story, you literally could not share it. You couldn't put it anywhere. And even Facebook now has come out. Zuckerberg admitted about 2 weeks ago that they also, what they did is they what do they call it? They de-emphasized it. There's a word they have.
Okay.
They basically suppressed. So this story is being suppressed. Why is this story being suppressed?
Because
it's a good idea. And so what I've come to through this, through basically going through and reading and understanding both sides of the media at this point, I see that the greatest problem is the censorship, because censorship is something that will actually stop democracy and science in their tracks. You can't actually have democracy or science if you have this kind of censorship.
Well, I mean, is it censorship? So, I mean, what do you think about the lie of Trump? The big lie, let's say. Should that be censored? Should that just be allowed to proliferate anywhere it wants to? I mean, because I know that they take that off of Twitter too. You think that somebody saying that the election was stolen, if they don't win the election, then it must be stolen, then that's good for democracy, even though they lost the election.
Absolutely. Any reasonable democracy should be able to withstand a challenge.
No, I don't agree. 100%, I don't agree. You can't. No democracy can stand when people do not have faith in the election. So anytime they lose an election, because this is what's going on in the right wing.
But you don't create faith. You don't create faith in an election by censoring one side. That's what authoritarian.
It's bullshit.
That's what happens every
it's just
time
bullshit.
There's been a despotic government, whether it was the Soviet Union, whether it was Germany. They always first want to censor the news.
But it's not news. It's not truth.
It is, Tara. It's news, and it's important because what you can never know is which side is right. So
this
right
is
now,
this is how democracies die.
Disagree with it.
And it's not about disagreeing with it.
Dies.
Yes, it is. I mean, in any authoritarian takeover, it begins with the illegitimacy of the opponent, of the other side. So that's right. Joe Biden had, he won the election. You saw what happened with Hillary. She won the popular vote and lost the electoral college. She didn't go out there saying, this is illegitimate. He's illegitimate.
She did. Absolutely.
She did not. She said Donald Trump will be our president, and we owe him the what did she say? We owe him the benefit of the doubt to. So that's what she said.
Democrats for 5 years. For 5 years, Democrats called the election illegitimate. They still do. Some Democrats I talked to still think the 2016 election was rigged by Russia. So,
that's
the point is you have to be able to withstand that.
Oh, I'm getting a heartache, a headache. Rigged by Russia. There is the FBI and the Senate report not too long ago said that Russia did influence the 2016 election, that they did what they do, their psyops, their fake Facebook accounts and all that other stuff to try to influence the election. And yes, they did. I mean, there's a whole web of, I mean, how many Trump people went to jail because of this? I mean, there are people that went to jail. There are people who begged for pardons because of this. That Roger Stone is not in jail because he got a pardon from Trump because of this.
There was no single indictment of any American over Russia manipulating the election. That didn't happen. But the larger question.
I must be delusional then, I guess. I don't know, because there's let's see, Russia. I just had the whole thing up here. But go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean go. You can keep going. I mean.
No, I think what my point is I think if you can take a step back, and I know it sounds like you're getting a headache and a heartache, and you're getting
it hurts because it feels. I mean, honestly, I don't agree with. If it's fine, you don't have to agree with me 100%, of course. And it's interesting, definitely to talk to you, but it's hard to argue with fantasies. If somebody just doesn't they don't like the result of an election, and that means it was stolen, and that they have the right to just go out and on any platform say the election was stolen, and you think that's good for democracy, then it's not.
No,
it's not.
It's good for democracy. I'm not. What I'm saying
that it should be strong enough.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, I think you'd find it interesting if you took a step back and looked at how each president for this entire century has been delegitimized by the opposing party. That's one of the ways that the media manipulates both sides. So you'll remember with Obama, it was that he was not he couldn't really be president because he wasn't born in this country.
Yeah, that was
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole side, they went on with that for a while.
Was he born in this country? I mean, is that a valid point of view? Was Obama from Kenya actually, or should that just be a valid stance that we should accept?
I'm not trying to prove the truth of any of these. What I'm saying is that the media is deceiving us. The media is deceiving you and deceiving me. We're all in this state I call red, white, and blind. We're all being deceived by the media. And what I'm trying to show to Americans and to you and to me and to everyone I speak to is examples where they can see this, because it's difficult to see it. If you're in the matrix, right, it's hard to see the matrix, right? If you're the fish swimming in the water, it's hard to see the water. But if you look at it, so the Republicans delegitimized Obama for 8 years. Then the Democrats delegitimized Trump for 4 years. Then the Republicans
I think he
delegitimized Biden for 4 years.
He delegitimized himself, frankly, but okay. I don't know. I mean, you said that Hillary was delegitimizing him. I don't, she conceded to him on that night.
Send you footage. There's a bunch of footage. They came out right away, and they decided we're going to blame this all on Russia. And why did the Democrats do that? They blamed on Russia not because there was any real evidence there. We now know that the whole Steele dossier was false and everything.
It wasn't wholly
was
false.
It was wholly false. It was wholly false. And the reason that they did it was because they didn't want to admit, right? They didn't want to admit why Trump had really won the election, right? Which was massive dissatisfaction with the status quo, right? They put down the Bernie Sanders revolution within the Democratic Party. They weren't able to put down the Trump revolution in the Republican Party. And what you have widespread dissatisfaction with the status quo. People are getting poorer. People are not able to get health care. People have their jobs are being shipped overseas, right? That was the populist movement. By saying everything about Trump was illegitimate, it was basically saying, don't look at why the Democratic Party actually lost.
That's a whole other situation. Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of deflection.
And
what? Sorry.
The whole thing was deflection. And so that's what I'm saying is if you see the media deflecting, it's because the government and basically how we're setting up society right now is fundamentally unfair and it's fundamentally rigged, right? But if you can constantly say it's all about Trump and the Russians, you don't have to say, why did people vote for a game show host? Why did people want to flip up? Why did they? Because they wanted change. And if Bernie had been there, they would have voted for Bernie, right? People wanted change. They didn't want the status quo. So you get somebody in there who's actually proposing to drain the swamp and to do something different. There's legitimate followers of that. But instead it was all either racism, we were supposed to believe that half the country was racist, or we were supposed to believe it was Russian. And that was media manipulation to get people to demonize and to hate one side of the political spectrum. You have all these people who think Republicans are less intelligent and less worthy, and it's because they want a lot of the same things the Democrats do.
Great. But
right?
listen, so show me where, we're all very unfair to Republicans because they're not being influenced by Russia, even though there's, I could show you right now, I'm looking at a timeline and all kinds of connections, Rex Tillerson, Jeff Sessions, Michael Flynn, connected to, Russia Today, the Kremlin-funded propaganda network, Sergei Kislyak, the GRU, Carter Page, Trump's political advisor, meeting with Rosen F, the oil company owned by the Russian government and Russian energy giant. And I mean, there's all these Roger Stone, Paul Manafort,
Sure. I understand. It's all there.
All kinds of,
right? Advocate is learning not just what is being said, but who's saying it and how you're supposed to feel.
But
whatever you're looking at, who wrote that and how does it want
I'm looking at the New York Times. This is from Politico. Paul Manafort, GOP operative, campaign manager until 2016, former business partners of Roger Stone, who had, Sergey Milian, Trump's associate, head of the Russian American Chamber of Commerce, the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow, 2013, Trump Organization. Who else was Felix Slater? All of these people involved with Russian business interests. Trump and all of his children themselves saying we get most of our money from Russia, right out of their own mouths. So you're asking me to believe that people like Paul Manafort are sincerely trying to make this democracy work for all, or Michael Flynn when he's he can't even register as a foreign agent. So anyway.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is people that vote for Republicans, right? I'm not defending the Republican politicians, people who vote for Republicans and people who vote for Democrats have a lot more in common than we're led to believe by the media.
No, that's
right?
fine, but
Right,
but listen, this is what I was going to ask. So we are all, left wingers or whatever. We say that they're racists and Russian operatives, right? So where are the right wingers? Where are they reaching out to the left? This is what I want to. The thing that always drives me up the wall too is that, for example, the Democrats, the corporate Democrats, especially like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, they're always touting how bipartisan. They're always reaching across the aisle. They're always trying to, find common ground and. With these Republicans, how we got this Republican to sign on to this bill and whatnot. Where is this going the other way? Where do the Republicans or even the Fox News viewers, what are they reaching out? So you're saying that the people on the left, we don't believe that Wuhan was the lab and whatever the Wuhan inflicted the coronavirus on the world, and that's where we're blind. But where is it that the right wingers are trying to reach out to the left? I haven't seen it myself. Am I missing something? I'm just wondering what you see. Does that make sense?
So are you talking about politicians, like you were
or
talking
just
about
in general? I mean, well, yeah, I guess
everyday people.
I guess it's just
politicians they reach out across the aisle only when it's like supports their interests. I mean, Pelosi will reach out if she finds common cause with a Republican or vice versa. It's because they're not doing something good for people; they're doing something good for themselves. And they share a lot more in common with each other.
I hear you there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. But in terms of everyday people, I mean, I've been very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think I had the concern when I started writing this book, and even as I was doing journalism work, that I was going to have a hard time finding good conversations with Republicans and conservatives and libertarians, and I found it to be absolutely present. I mean, I live in California, so it may be that the conservatives that live here are more open-minded, but I actually find I have more open-minded conversations with conservatives and Republicans now than I do with Democrats mostly. I'm making a big generalization. I tend to find, and you have large numbers on both sides of people that, again, it's sort of they're in their tribe, and you already know what they're going to think about every issue before you ask them because they just read their one media source, and the conversations are maybe not as interesting, and maybe that's what you're getting at. But there's also a large subset of people, increasingly possibly identifying as independents, but this is the new enlightenment I'm talking about, that are following independent media and are following a more balanced media diet. And when you talk to them, it's because they actually realize I don't have views that line up with either party, and they're willing to admit that. A lot of people already experience that, but they're too ashamed or worried to admit it, that they have views that don't align with their party, and I think that's true on both the left and the right. But the people that are willing to talk about that and say, yeah, I agree with these guys on this, I don't agree on that, and I'm a complete weirdo on this issue or something, right? Because we all have that. Those are the people that absolutely, I find people willing to have conversations. I mean, podcasts I've been on already, just with this book I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. I've had really interesting conversations on all sides. So I think it's just if you're willing to look and if you're willing to maybe say, it really comes down to your own personal thing, and I find that with myself. If there's places you're willing to say, I don't know, I'm not sure about this, I'm still learning, then you're going to have interesting conversations. But if you come into a conversation, I already have all the answers, and I just stay in my one silo and get confirmation bias, you're probably not going to have as many interesting conversations. But what I'm optimistic about is that I think that this awakening is happening. And that's the good news in the book, even though a lot of the book is laying out all of the deception and all of the censorship and propaganda and all that we're up against as a political society right now. But at the same time, I do see this real birth of independent media and independent minds.
Yes. Well, that's the one good thing that I would stay away from the corporate media, that's for sure. But again, I just feel that there is a lot of demonization on the right as in regard to liberals. I don't really see because I
sure.
always ask just on the show in general, anybody have any good news coming from the right? Like I'll share it. Let's talk about it. Is there anything that they've done for the American people as far as the working class, or is it just a constant picking away at the pillars of democracy, which include, in my opinion, spreading of these of lies, and also these. A lot of the conspiracies of that erode trust in general with each other, because we can't have a democracy and in a country, for example, they talk about trans people and gay people and Black Lives Matter as if there's that's the problem with society, with people demanding a seat at the table, and they just vilify other human beings that way. And we're all supposed to, I guess, get in our place, and then everything will be, I don't know, utopia somehow when we're in our hierarchies. But anyway, it's I guess we have a lot of work to do.
There's certainly some political differences. I talk about that in the Balanced Media Diet too, to get outside of the parties and to get into authentic, what I call true politics, and really get into what are the real underpinnings of conservatism and what are the underpinnings of progressivism, and where are these, because there are legitimate differences. Some of us generally believe that humans are more cooperative, and some of us believe humans are more competitive. Because both of those are true. Humans are both competitive and cooperative, and depending on your life experience, you might believe that they're more A or they're more B. Same with something, and there's a lot of issues like abortion or like free speech or like some of these things that people have legitimate differences about. But I think that what you'll find is that it's a very small number of people that are completely, whatever, bigoted or just have these sort of caveman beliefs about things. It's very rare. To run into genuine nasty racism or homophobia, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It absolutely does, and we need to continue to make progress. But it's not a major driver in my experience. In my experience,
well, maybe right to your
right,
face, but they're legislating against gay people and trans people all the time. So it's just, that to me is disgusting, really. They're interrogating families about whether they're giving their children gender affirming health care, right? It's that to me is it's dehumanizing.
There's
it's disgusting.
Certainly are differences and things like that, and I'm not saying that what I've come to is a belief that we need to, in my sort of sense of genuine progressivism, what I think progressivism is it's pushing power and wealth to more people, pushing it away from the center.
Yes.
And you have on the opposite end of it, you have reactionaryism, what I call reactionaries, which want to consolidate wealth and power. And so that's a very small number of people, the people that are very wealthy and very powerful and want to continue to consolidate wealth and power. Conservatives are in the middle. They want to kind of keep things how they are. That's sort of how I see it. So progressivism, if you want to continue to push wealth and power out from the center to more people, I think one of the ways that you do that if you really take a step back, I think will please both sort of cultural liberals and cultural conservatives, is you have to get back to local power. You have to get back to local systems. So if there's a local community that in their school they have a particular belief about, trans identity, then that's okay to do their school that way. You have local democracy, and you do that also with things like abortion or things like the vaccine mandate or things like gun control. You allow these decisions to be made on more local level, and then people can then choose. I don't really agree with the society, so I'm going to go somewhere else. But it's really when you try to make these decisions from these top-down places.
Well, that's the whole point of having a constitution, where people can't just vote on whether you're a full citizen and that's, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. And I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's what conservatives are. Oh, local, let's do it local. They don't want it local either, because they'll come into your local and tell you what books to take off your library shelves and things like that. So it's I don't agree with that either. I mean, there has to be a constitution. Otherwise, why don't we just secede? Why don't everybody just secede? So
that's the system. Is you have federalism. So we do have federalism, right? So we have states, and within states we have counties, and so there's certain things that should be absolutely held at the federal level, at the federal government, right? And you should have certain things set there. You should have other things set at the state level. But if you push more things local, right, then what you can have is so something like, let's imagine something like, surveillance, right? Like the fact that there's police surveillance and there's surveillance on our tech devices and that our phones are, have microphones in them and are, probably sending all of our conversations off to the big tech companies, right? So most people, when you talk to them about that, they're not that into it.
Right.
I mean, they have different views about it. So what about if you could, rather than try to get something done at the federal level on that, which is really difficult, and the big tech companies have a tremendous amount of power, if you can do something locally, maybe at the state level, but maybe at the local level, like here in my town in California, or I think you're in New York, wherever you are, like do something at a local level that would say, look, we're not going to allow this type of surveillance data to happen here. And then, once it happens, then maybe more companies will do that. And you've seen that happen with things like solar energy and renewable energy. Yeah, sometimes it'll be things that you disagree with, like maybe they're going to have a rule about a particular thing that you disagree with. I mean, that happens.
Right.
But that's the point of having local communities, and I think that's what's sustainable for the long term as well.
Right. Well, I mean, when it comes to things like whether we should be surveilled or whatever, high-speed internet access, and that's one thing. But when you're talking about human beings and who should exist and how they should exist, and whether somebody has full autonomous control over their bodies or, should be able to be whatever pronoun they want to fucking be. That's a whole other. That's why we have a constitution, so you can't just legislate against somebody because you don't like them, And I just see that
that's right.
What's going on a lot. But I mean, this is a very big conversation, and I really appreciate you spending so much time on the show and having a lively. Definitely lively discussion. I appreciate it because, it is, like you say, too often we're speaking to the choir, really. And it's always good to get a different perspective, that's for sure. But, as far as, I don't know if I'm going to watch Fox. I'd rather, I guess, hate watching MSNBC in the morning is more digestible for my coffee than... Fox at this moment.
Well, here's what I'll say, Tara, and I also really appreciate the lively conversation, and I appreciate you having you on the show. The balanced media diet, so it's 40 sources, and I went through hundreds of sources to pull them, and most of it is not corporate media. I don't recommend more than about 25% corporate media, and I think there should be some, and I go into the book why you don't want to completely get rid of corporate media because you want to continue to have exposure to it. But no, it's really about... finding independent media sources where you can basically compose your own way of figuring out the world. And through doing it, I don't know which sources you're ultimately going to trust and you're ultimately going to find to be your favorites. But what I do know is if you don't have a balanced media diet, and I've been guilty of this as well, we fall into these silos and we fall into these sort of thought bubbles. And that's not healthy for us, and it's not healthy for our communities. It's not healthy for our country because we're not able to innovate. We're not, if we're stuck in one particular mindset, we're not innovative. We're not curious. We're not learning. And so that's really where I go with. I'm not asking you to go watch Fox News.
No, I hear you. Yeah, I just think that a lot of it's what's more unhealthy is not watching. Let's say Fox News in a way, but that's unhealthy, but in my opinion. But it's the mistrust that's sown and the vilification that's so prevalent. That's really the problem, where it's not that conservatives and progressives are two, are people who all agree that we should have a economically vibrant and upwardly mobile working class majority, right? But we just have different ideas how to get there. We don't even agree on that now. It's, to me, I feel as if, right wingers they're beyond the rational conversation. They're literally telling.
Who do you talk to? I'm just
who
curious.
do I talk to?
People that are.
What do you mean?
Yes, you talk to conservatives. Do you when you talk to somebody who's like, yeah, I'm a conservative, I voted for Trump or whatever.
Yeah, I have.
You talk to them, and do they seem like they're not interested in upwardly mobile working class?
No, I'm not saying that they're not interested in that. I'm saying that they think that used to be the thing. Like we all agree that we want an economically vibrant and upwardly mobile working class majority, and democracy is the best form of government to get there, for e pluribus unum and all that. That's what I'm saying. That's the way conservatism used to, and progressivism and liberalism, we all agree on that, but we just have different ideas how to get there. And now I feel that it's right wingers are more, they're so, like they think they literally cannot work with Democrats, or they will get trounced in their own communities. So they'll be, for example, when was it? After Hurricane Sandy, when Obama came to New Jersey. I was here in New York when Hurricane Sandy hit, and it was, of course, devastating. And one of the places that got really hit bad was New Jersey. And Obama went to New Jersey, and Chris Christie shook his hand and got in big trouble with the right wingers. And then, of course, Chris Christie was like, of course, I'm going to shake his hand and blah, blah, blah. But just to think that you can't shake the hand of the President of the United States without being given shit by your own constituency is pretty, it says a lot. So, and now I feel like it's the same thing, especially like with Hillary Clinton. Like, hate Hillary Clinton, go right ahead. We talk about her on the show, but she's not drinking adrenochrome. She's not killing children and drinking their whatever. I don't know, some kind of. I don't know what you call it, gland juice. This is what they're saying.
I agree with that, but I think right. But you also have to see that on the other side, right? So Hillary Clinton did say people are a basket of deplorables.
Yeah, but she also said that
people are
fascist, semi-fascist, and they are, and they fucking are. They have fucking what's his name, Viktor Orban. Of course they are. They have Viktor Orban. If you're a CPAC person or whatever, who's they? Okay, the CPAC people, the people who go to CPAC. I'm not saying my sister, whatever, voted Republican. She doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. She voted Republican because her stupid husband, her ex-husband, was Republican. So that kind of thing. I'm not saying she's a fascist. She doesn't even know what the hell it is. So, but the people at CPAC who invite Viktor Orban as their keynote speaker, and then they go to Hungary to have their little gathering, and then they invite the guy here. Yes, that's semi-fascist. He is Hungary is now an illiberal democracy, just like the United States is classified as a backsliding democracy for the first time in our history. So. These are, of course, that's semi-fascist. What else? When a guy comes down an escalator vilifying a minority group as rapists, that's semi-fascist. Anybody who is not a fascist should recoil from that. You don't do that. Are you saying that Mexicans are rapists? But some of them are good people, I guess. You know, I mean, you don't see that on the left.
I still don't see where you're going with this, because so how is it helpful? What does this term even mean? Semi-fascist is a made-up term to dehumanize people.
Is it dehumanizing? But okay, as far as Hillary Clinton with the basket of,
it's basically what it's demonizing people. So part of the issue that I see is both sides sort of moving in this direction of viewing the other side as un-American, sort of,
well, if somebody is lying about the election because they're not man enough to admit they lost, and that they would rather tear this country down, and
we don't have the evidence to prove that the election was fair,
we do.
Right?
It's not stolen. The other thing is Joe Biden? Does Joe Biden have dementia? Is that another thing? Because that's another thing we keep hearing on the right. Does he have dementia? Because I'm all about, he does have dementia. I mean, my father had dementia, so I can recognize the signs. I'm telling you, he doesn't have dementia. No person with dementia could stand up and give a speech, okay, or take questions or do a 2-hour press conference in front of the American people, which is something Trump never did, of course. But and then does he have dementia? See, this is what I'm saying. By all means, disagree with Biden. But if you're saying he has dementia, not just you, I'm just saying like the right wingers are saying he has dementia. That's just bullshit. And it is dirty, and it is offensive to me. I mean, I'm not a big Biden person. I was a Bernie.
In your sense, I know you're not a doctor and you're not an expert in this.
He doesn't have dementia.
Your sense is that Joe Biden has his full mental faculties?
He's I don't know him personally, but he seems to be pretty cognitively there, and he doesn't have dementia. Being somebody who's been around people with dementia.
Joe Biden. I interviewed Joe Biden I didn't interview him, but I was in events when I was in San Francisco in like the early 2000s, like around the Iraq war time. And he was very different then. He was very,
I don't know.
He was very forceful and mentally sharp. And I don't see that Joe Biden anymore. There's definitely been a decline in my totally non-professional opinion. Totally, I'm not a doctor, not qualified. All I know is that I saw him in person about 15 years ago. I guess closer to 20 years ago now, probably 17 years ago. And I look at him today, and he's very different.
Well, I mean, people age and things. Aging does affect people, but. He does not have dementia. There's no way. We just saw him. He gave a speech just today. I saw him. He does not have dementia. And it's, to me, I'm like, my father had dementia, and I knew my father, of course, my entire life, and he got dementia. It was a slow decline, and then it wasn't. But you could see the signs. If he had fucking dementia, it would be clear. So if he's not as swift as he was 15 years ago, that's not dementia, And this is what drives me insane about the right. So but by all means, criticize Biden, criticize his policies. But give me this bullshit about he's got dementia. Fuck off with that. That is so divisive, and it's the same thing, with Trump. Like, what is Trump is what the same, like, spreading this bullshit, and.
But let me jump in there, because I know we got to go soon. I got to jump off in a few
minutes.
I know. But wouldn't you say that the way that Trump was attacked and has been attacked was not about his policies? I mean,
well, what policies? His policies.
You're saying about how.
Mm-hmm. What policies?
Right, like the way that Biden, you're saying, criticize Biden on his policies, it's fine, but don't talk about his, sort of.
But
negative personal characteristics, let's say, right?
Well, what does
it's the same with Trump, right?
Okay.
People talk about his I would say.
Well, he is a walking
Trump's negative.
But Trump is a con man.
I'm not a Trump fan. Like he's got a lot of issues, but I would say. My point again with this book, and I can talk to your listeners about where they can find it and things.
Yes, please.
The point of my book is not to establish that one side is right and one side is wrong, because doing that gets us back into these sort of war stances against each other, and red and blue, and we're the tribes. It's to see that that both sides are being configured and being manipulated, and people looking at it are being guided this way. So you're you're not supposed to love Biden or love Trump. You're supposed to hate the other guy, right? Because it's much easier to manipulate people in a negative energetic, right? So that's sort of more what I'm saying. And so, yeah, the book is Red, White, and Blind. You can find it at redwhiteandblind.com. Also, my blog is tonybrasunas.com. You'll find everything there. Tony Brasunas on Facebook and Twitter. The book will be out just a few days after Thanksgiving, so right at the end of November. Let
Thank
me know
you.
if you have any other questions.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns, hit Tony up at tonybrasunas.com. Thank you, Tony. It really has been a great conversation and a lot of fun, and I know the people on the chat are really enjoying it. So yeah, they get tired of listening to me. So it's been great to mix it up a little with you. And I know we're coming from the same side also, because I'm a Bernie bro myself. So not that, I always hated that Bernie bro thing, but you know what I mean. I was always for Bernie, and
it was
still
made
am.
up by the media.
I know. Even though Bernie had the most diverse constituency, that's another story.
Actually more women. Yeah,
exactly.
More women.
I know.
Yeah, I know. I talk quite a bit of. There's one whole chapter of Red, White, and Blind is really just 2016 and like all of the crazy media manipulation. It's fun to relive it if you or your viewers care. So
wonderful. Thank you so
Sarah,
much,
it's been
Tony.
awesome.
It has been. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to mixing it up with you again one time in the future, or once or twice. Who knows? Stay in touch.
Anytime.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right, Tony Brasunas, Red, White, and Blind. That was an interesting conversation, right, guys? Something different, right? We had Tom Hartman on the show last week, and it's good to get another point of view. What do you think? Yes, Red, White, and Blind. Hold on a second. I got to shut down the phone. All right. Boop boop boop. Because I have to pay for the phones. Every minute that goes by is another minute out of your pocket, you guys' pocket. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Very good. All right, that was interesting. What do you think? Let me see. Let me check in. Let's take our temperature here. Yeah, something different. I didn't yell at him enough? No. I don't know. It was hard. I mean, he's not here, as Tom always talks about, he's not here to defend himself. So it's not about him. I'm just saying that it was a little frustrating, because when you cannot agree on truth, it's kind of concerning. So who is, the election was stolen, and it wasn't stolen. I mean, and where is it? Let me show you. And all the the Steele dossier stuff. There was here. Oh, and then when you reference the New York Times, that's a no-no. That's obviously a fake. Like, who the fuck? All right. Let's see. From the New York Times, Trump and his backers say revelations about the Steele dossier show that the Russian investigation was a hoax. That's not what the facts indicate. I mean, it's just, and for people to be so honed in on all the connections, let's say, for example, with the Wuhan lab, when you find out that the Wuhan lab was doing gain of function research, that's just too much of a coincidence. But okay, but here's some more coincidences, right? Where is it? Let's go over this. I'll show you in a minute. See, look. This is, you see what I'm saying? It drives me crazy that we want to see these loose connections and the whole barista thing, or not barista. I'm thinking of coffee. The whole barista, Joe Biden was charged by given the mission to help stop the corruption in Ukraine, and this particular prosecutor who was corrupt and was not investigating, wasn't doing his job, investigating and prosecuting the Burisma oil company for all its corruption or whatever the hell. And they got rid of that prosecutor, not because he was doing his job, because he wasn't fucking doing his job. And that's manipulated. You see what I mean? And so we see all of these loose strands of connection. But what about, but there's no Russia. There's no Russia connections at all, even though, here, let's look this up right now. FBI, Senate. Oh, I guess the FBI is corrupt too. Report. Trump. Okay, no, not Russia. I mean, not Trump. Russian interference in election. Let's see. Senate report outlines grave Russian threat. Oh, I guess that's corrupt too. And the Hunter Biden laptop. Give me a fucking break. Okay. We'll get back to that in a minute. See, look, Trump and Putin. Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, former senator from Alabama, during the presidential campaign, met twice with Sergei Kislyak, Russian ambassador. And then you go down, who is, it's all these connections. Michael Flynn appeared on and was paid by Russia Today, the Kremlin-funded propaganda network. Also, as director of Defense Intelligence Agency in 2013, visited the headquarters of the GRU, and also had inaccurate accounts of his numerous contacts with Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, who is another piece of work, right out of House of Cards. And then you go, so why would you lie? Why would Michael Flynn? And that's one of the things that actually Barack Obama told Trump when he handed the keys to the White House to him. He said, no, you run your own foreign policy, of course, but whatever you do, don't, what did he say? Don't give Michael Flynn, don't let Michael Flynn into your cabinet. He's a traitor. And what does he do? He gives Michael Flynn a position and then has to fire him like 10 days later because, he supposedly lied to the vice president about his contacts with Russians. So everywhere you look, there are people connected to the Russians. And let me see something too. Russia, and it's hard to keep track because, let's see, Trump officials in prison for Russia. Let's say, let me look at that, see what comes up. Everyone charged. And he said that no one's been charged. No one's in prison. Here we go. George Papadopoulos, indictment and plea deals. Former Trump campaign foreign policy advisor, arrested in July 2017, pled guilty in 2017 for making false statements to the FBI. He got a 14-day sentence. Paul Manafort, former Trump campaign chair, was indicted on 25 different counts by Mueller's team. related mainly to his work for Ukrainian politicians and his finances. And those were the politicians who were trying to undermine the reform, the democratic reforms that Zelensky was championing or was elected on. He had 2 trials scheduled, and the first ended in a conviction on 8 counts of financial crimes. To avert the second trial, Manafort struck a plea deal with Mueller in 2018. Although Mueller's team said in November he breached the agreement for lying to them. I mean, all these liars, too. And Paul Manafort, you're going to tell me that Paul Manafort is a sincere patriot, right? Who just wants the best for American democracy. He was sentenced to a combined 7.5 years in prison. Rick Gates, a former Trump campaign aide and Manafort's longtime junior business partner, was indicted on similar charges. But in February 2018, he agreed to a plea deal, pleading guilty to just one false statement charge and one conspiracy charge. Yeah, they were put in prison for things like conspiracy against the United States. Nice. Sentenced to 45 days in prison and 3 years probation. You know, don't be a traitor. Don't be a traitor for 3 years, because we'll be watching you. Michael Flynn, Trump's former national security advisor, pleaded guilty in December 2017 to making false statements to the FBI. He's the one, we go one, we go all now. They were all, oh, and the other thing I didn't realize, guys, I think maybe the last show, one of the last shows, we were watching those clips at the Trump rally with their fingers in the air. That's apparently a QAnon salute. Just like, you know, it's a little adaptation of the Nazi salute. Where are we? 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies were indicted on conspiracy charges, with some also being accused of identity theft. The charges related to a Russian propaganda effort designed to interfere with the 2016 campaign. The companies involved are the Internet Research Agency. And then, you know, this happened. This is true. Often described as the Russian troll farm, and other companies that helped finance it. The Russian nationals indicted include 12 of the agency's employees and an alleged financier, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Excuse me, I know. It was something I had for dinner. I'm sorry. Where is it? Richard Pinedo, the California man, pleaded guilty to identity theft charges in connection to with Russian indictments and has agreed to cooperate. He was sentenced to 6 months in prison and 6 months home detention. Alex van der Zwaan, a London lawyer, pleaded guilty to making false statements to the FBI about his contacts with Rick Gates and other unarmed persons in Ukraine. He was sentenced to 30 days. Konstantin Kiliknik, the longtime business associate of Manafort and Gates, who currently based in Russia, was charged alongside Manafort with attempting to obstruct justice and tampering with witnesses in Manafort's pending case. Because, you know, that's what you do when you're innocent. You tamper with witnesses and obstruct justice. 12 Russian GRU officers, these officers of the Russian military intelligence service, were charged with crimes related to hacking and leaking of the DNC's of Democratic emails in 2016. No interference here. Michael Cohen, in 2018, Trump's former lawyer, pleaded guilty, to 8 counts, tax and bank charges related to his finances and taxi businesses and campaign finance violations related to hush money payments to women who alleged affairs with Trump as part of a separate investigation in New York that Mueller had handed off. But in November, he made a plea deal with Mueller, too, because that's what you do when you're innocent, for lying to Congress about efforts to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. Because, you know, nothing to hide. when you're a legitimate businessman trying to build something in a foreign dictatorship. Nothing shady going on. And which is why, Trump could not get a legitimate bank loan in the United States because he was put on an allowance by banksters here in the United States because they weren't getting their money back. That's why they confiscated his helicopter and his stupid Trump shuttle and all these other fucking failed failed, whatever you call it, so-called businesses. And he sucked at business. All he could do was grift and steal. And because he's a rapacious black hole of greed, when you can't get your fix, you rob your own fucking mother. So he went to Russia. What does he care about United States, democracy? What are you kidding me? He loves power and money. On Twitter, before he was drummed off of Twitter because he was a filthy fascist liar, Trump, begged Putin to be his best friend. Could you imagine? Imagine the falderall that the Republicans, the drama that we would all be dragged through if Obama did something similar. Can Putin be my best friend? Please, pretty please. I don't know what kind of impression that was. Obama. Some impression. And Roger Stone, in January 2019, Mueller indicted longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone on 7 counts. He accused Stone of lying to the House Intelligence Committee about his efforts to get in touch with WikiLeaks during the campaign and tampering with witness who could have debunked his story. He was convicted on all counts. Finally, there's one person Mueller initially investigated but handed over to others in the Justice Department to charge, Sam Patton. This Republican operative and lobbyist pleaded guilty to not registering as a foreign agent with his work for Ukrainian political bigwigs and agreed to cooperate. And then you have, of course, Papadopoulos, Flynn, Manafort, and Gates, all of these people. Cohen, Michael Cohen. They made deals. What are you making deals for? You're innocent. Jesus Christ. What guys, help me. Help me. Am I wrong? Right? Trump, here's Martin on the chat. Trump and kids said they loved Russian money. Yes, that's right. It came out of their own goddamn mouths. And this is what I'm talking about. What? That's what I mean. And then to say Biden has dementia? Give me a fucking break with this shit. So Biden has dementia. Was Obama born in the United States? So we should all think that that's normal. I don't know. Okay, I said I wouldn't do that. And I won't. And it was very nice of Tony to come on the show. He's got an interesting perspective, of course, and it was good to mix it up a little bit. But it was also incredibly frustrating for me, frankly. I hope he didn't. I mean, he was a good sport to keep. He stayed on the phone for over an hour. So. But it does show you what we're up against. Yeah, what question? He never fully answered that question. Which question, Pookies? Write it in the chat there. Because the examples of media suppression, I suppose, Jeffrey Epstein and the coronavirus. And see, what I say... in general, with the coronavirus, who cares? Who fucking cares? So you're saying, because the underlying message is that somebody did something nefarious and, about where Obama was born, Pookies. Yeah, exactly. Was Obama born in the United States? It's like, attack him if you don't like his policies. Don't tell me he's not an American citizen, because this isn't happened overnight. You don't see this on the left. You don't see that kind of undermining. We go after policies, right? So he's saying that Hillary Clinton, the Democrats delegitimized Trump during his whole presidency. Did the Democrats do that? The Democrats did that. Or was it Trump? Trump. He was never the president of for all the American people. Remember, if we take out the blue states, we hardly have any death. Right? He was always about what you could do for him. Are you nice to him? Especially in the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, when they decided to pull back support for New York, since New York was kind of ground zero in the early days of the coronavirus, because, New York didn't vote for him, and fuck him. Fuck him. Let him die. Right? Winston says, same, yeah, right, Tara, same with Biden. Attack his policies if you have an issue with them, but you don't attack the man's character and faculties. So, and he said he thought he had dementia. He doesn't have fucking dementia. This drives me fucking crazy. Because it is insulting. It really is. It's insulting to everyone who's ever had to struggle with a family member who had dementia. Yeah, you think my father, even when he, in the early days of his illness, if he had a touch of dementia, do you think my father could get up there and give a speech, could answer questions, volley with the press for 2 fucking hours? No, he couldn't. My father couldn't even program the VCR. That's how I knew something was wrong. In fact, in the beginning, I was like, the little things, and the there's no way. There's no effing way, and it's so insulting because it's the other thing is that there's this the feeling is somehow everyone, the Democrats are really out to get us, the whole country. They're out to get. There's something going on here under the surface, and now that we're talking and kind of processing what the last hour, I'm thinking I wish I had asked that too. So okay, you see these conspiracies at the Wuhan lab, and everybody wants to. Why would anybody Why would it be in anybody's best interest to release a fucking lab virus? Oh, if it got out by accident, they're doing bioweapons in the lab, and there's absolutely no evidence of that. And why wouldn't there be? It would be in the New York Times, the Washington Post. But, that's being suppressed. People would win a Pulitzer Prize if that were the case. And the Hunter Biden laptop story being suppressed. You know why it's being suppressed? Because we're fucking sick of it. It's bullshit. And how many times do we have to waste our breath on it? Like the same way we have to waste our breath about Joe Biden not having dementia. Right? And, we stigmatized Trump? He stigmatized himself. Did you get a load of him? With somebody who comes down an escalator calling Mexicans rapists. So are they rapists? Is that what you're saying? They're rapists. That's just the point of view. Right? Disgusting, right? Haiku says, I could see Trump's disgusting lack of character as a 10-year-old watching New York TV news. Exactly. He's always been a disgusting, greed-centered, sociopathic, narcissist carnival barker. So, okay, he was vilified. And that's, as far as Hillary Clinton, vilifying, delegitimizing Trump? Here, let's see. Let's look that up right now. I'm typing here. Hillary Here we go. Yeah, that's what she, this is what she said. I'm not, we go after Hillary Clinton too. But the night she conceded. Hold on. Of course, there's an ad. Damn it. God damn it. I'm going to flip the fuck out. And I was cursing. I started cursing. I don't know. All right, here we go. Let's watch this. I hope he wasn't offended with my potty mouth. Well, who cares?
I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country. But I feel pride and gratitude for this wonderful campaign that we built together. This vast, diverse, creative, unruly, energized campaign. You represent the best of America, and being your candidate has been one of the greatest honors of my life. You feel because I feel it too. And so do tens of millions of Americans who invested their hopes and dreams in this effort. This is painful, and it will be for a long time.
Well, yeah. We owe it to him. We owe him an open mind and a chance to lead. That's what she said. It's painful. I mean, she had more courage, more balls than he'd ever have in his entire life. Not that, hey, what she should have done, in my opinion, is she should have made Bernie her running mate. Then she would have who the fuck is Tim Kaine? Tim Kaine? Oh, yeah. You know how energized and enthused those Tim Kainians are. Give me a break. If Hillary actually wanted, I mean, that was her own arrogance. And I see, he was saying how she blamed everything else but herself for and that's another, that's true. She blamed Bernie, for the fact that he didn't concede right away and all that. But there is a point. She has a point but to some of the manipulation, the Russian psyops campaign. Of course they're doing it. We know this for a fact. They're still doing it. They're still up to it. But, is that why she lost? That's her own shit. That's her own denial. It's part of it, but, she should have made Bernie her running mate. But, God. If she had made Bernie her running mate, we would have won. There's no doubt in my mind. Absolutely no doubt. And then, okay, so what else? Here, Carter Page, Trump political advisor, along with two other advisors, met with top managers from Rosneft, an oil company owned by the Russian government, Gazprom, Russian energy giant, and Sergei Kislyak, who is the same one who Trump invited to the Oval Office. He probably put a bug under the table while he was there and said that, oh, yeah, I got the pressure relieved because I fired that Comey guy. Hardy, hardy, har. And there's that picture of them all yucking it up. Where, all, if I'm not mistaken, in that meeting, Trump also blurted out some top secret information that the Israelis had shared with us. So, you know, boo-boo, booga, 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 it's declassified. But he wanted to, because he was trying to impress Sergei Kislyak, because that's all that mattered. If he impresses Sergei Kislyak, then he'll maybe will tell Putin what a good boy, what a cool guy he is, and then Putin will be his best friend. Yes, Tommy. Thank you, Tommy. I see you, Tommy, from... Where are you? From New York. I will die mad over Hillary Clinton and Al Gore. Exactly. Me too. Me too. And then Roger Stone, who is a piece of dirt, a traitor, a freak, a scumbag, and a traitor. I said traitor. He's twice a traitor, and more. He's a goddamn comic book villain. These people are disgusting. Paul Manafort. They're all shady bastards. You know, say what you will about the Democrats, and we do. At least they're trying. You know, they're trying. They're trying. Not all, of course. But some, you know, the entire Republican Party. If this is what we have to, you know, we're arguing about, you know, that the Democrats somehow are what? Covering up for what? A worldwide pandemic? It's all this fucking conspiracy theory shit. That's not true. I don't know. All right, we'll stop telling me the election was there's no evidence, the jury's out on. No, the election wasn't stolen, and it's conflating two different things. The electronic voting machines, that was never their argument. They went to court, they were told they have the burden of proof. Well, where was it stolen? And 61 court cases all over the country in different jurisdictions, different judges, including Trump-appointed ones, dismissed their bullshit court cases with prejudice. With fucking prejudice, which is the legal equivalent of saying, get the fuck out of here with that shit. God. I don't know. Oh, God. Paul Manafort, one-time business partner of Dmitry Firtash, Ukrainian oligarch who got a sweetheart business deal from associates of Putin. And Viktor Yovanovitch, former president of Ukraine, received financial backing from Firtash and a political ally of Putin. And of course, Paul Manafort is also has a connection to Roger Stone, GOP operative and political advisor to Trump, and Putin, also connected to Putin. One-time business partner of Oleg Deripaska, Russian oligarch, who is also close to Putin. And also, Paul Manafort is connected to and a business associate of Konstantin Kilimnik, Ukrainian political operative formerly affiliated with the GRU, the Russian military intelligence agency, of Putin. Here's the business ties. Felix Slater, Fedor Emelianenko, mixed martial arts star and former business partner, friend of Putin. The Trump Organization, international conglomerate that comprises Trump business venture and investments, mysterious private server connection to the Alpha Bank, largest private commercial bank in Russia. And, the other thing, the dossier, the Steele dossier. Where is it? He was saying, it's all bullshit. You see what I'm saying? Like, for the people who think or say, assert that these loose connections to someone got some kind of permit to do gain of function, which is not even fucking true. Let me look this up. Did the Wuhan lab get a gain of function permit? Is that a thing? Let's see. NIH documents. Okay, provide new. This is from The Intercept. Oh, Jesus Christ. I have to sign in. I am not. It's a paywall. Gain of. Let's go to fact check. Hi, Junior. Thank you for coming over and being my emotional support cat. The Wuhan lab and the gain of function disagreement. A disagreement between Republican Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Anthony Fauci has put $600,000 of U.S. money, grant money, to the Wuhan Institute of Virology back in the spotlight while making gain-of-function research a household term. All admit calls for an investigation. At issue is whether the National Institutes of Health funded research on bat coronaviruses that could have caused a pathogen to become more infectious to humans, and separately, if SARS, the virus that causes the disease of COVID-19, transferred naturally from bats to humans, possibly through an intermediate host animal, or a virus, a naturally occurring one, or a lab-enhanced one, was accidentally released. It was like, where the fuck do we live? Is this some kind of Netflix series? There are a lot of unknowns, speculations, and differences of opinions about the topic, but let's start with what we know. In 2014, the National Institutes of Health awarded a grant to the U.S.-based Eco Health Alliance to study the risk of future emergence of coronaviruses from bats. In 2019, the project was renewed for another 5 years, but was canceled in April 2020, 3 months after the first case of coronavirus was confirmed in the United States. The grant cancellation. Oh, wait. Sorry, guys. EcoHealth ultimately received $3.7 million over 6 years from the NIH and distributed nearly $600,000 to Wuhan's Institute of Virology, a collaborator on the project. The grant cancellation came at a time when then-President Donald Trump and others questioned the U.S. funding to a lab while exaggerating the amount of federal money involved. Well, gee, I wonder, how much do they exaggerate it to? Oh, they said that it received $7.5 million, but it was actually $500,000? Is that what happened? 600,000, yeah. Why, whatever. Everything is a fucking lie, so. The Wuhan Institute of Virology has studied bat for coronaviruses for years and their potential for ultimately infecting humans under the direction of scientist Shi Zhengli, as the Scientific American explained in a June 2020 story. The zoononic okay, I know I'm annoying. You just have to bear with me. I annoy myself. The zoonotic transfer, meaning transmission of a virus from an animal to a human, of coronaviruses occurred with SARS and MERS. Okay, so which led to global outbreaks in 2003 and 2012. Both viruses are thought to have started in bats and then transferred to humans through intermediate animals, such as raccoon dogs. That sounds cute. Raccoon dogs. I think I'll trade you in for a raccoon dog. Junior. In case of SARS, and camels in the case of MERS. Experts have suspected the SARS-CoV-2 virus similarly originated in bats. Researchers in China, including the Wuhan Institute of Virology, have said that the virus shares 96% of its genome with the bat virus, collected by researchers in 2013. While that's quite similar, Dr. Stanley Perlman, a professor of microbiology and immunology at the University of Iowa, who studies coronavirus and pediatric infections, told us it would be impossible to take such a virus and make that kind of change, the kind of change required to turn it into a SARS-CoV-2 in a lab. One would need a virus that's 99.9% similar. An article published in Nature, the magazine, in March said that the virus likely originated through a natural selection in an animal host before zoonotic transfer, or natural selection in humans following zoonotic transfer. The researchers who analyzed the genome say it's not a laboratory construct or a purposefully manipulated virus. While they said an accidental laboratory release of the naturally occurring virus can't be ruled out, they said they do not believe any type of laboratory-based scenario is plausible. In an April 2020 statement, University of Sydney... See, that's what I'm saying, guys. It's so... as we were having our conversation, there's the shit just keeps flying. That's why I was like, I'm getting a headache and a heartache, because it's like you can't, you got to keep swatting it out. Oh, Wuhan virus, Jeffrey Epstein. See the underlying theme, all of that is saying that the left wingers aren't reporting the Jeffrey Epstein story because the Clintons murdered him, you see. Or the Wuhan virus thing is because Dr. Fauci is corrupt and we all want you to wear masks. Like, gotta fuck off. I don't care you wear a mask or not. Stay in your hovel. Leave me alone. That's all. But if you want to play in our reindeer games and be part of a civilization, we have certain responsibilities, right? Junior knows. Look at this cat, everybody. Look at him. Watch. Give me your paw. I tell you. Watch again. Give me your paw. Ow, not your mouth, your paw. He's a good boy. He listens. Not like some I know. Oh, wait, I do. Do I have any treats in my pocket? Maybe that's why he's bothering me. Oh, I have treats. I have treats in this pocket. This is the jacket I was wearing with the kittens. I have a couple of rescue kittens I'm socializing. So you might find my pockets filled with cat treats. Yeah, I guess I have to embrace the cat lady moniker. What can you do? Here we go. Take these treats. Take these treats and shove it. Boom, I ain't taking your shit no more. Get out of here. All right, enough. This is only going to encourage him. Why did I do that? All right. Let's get to the bottom of the story. This is a very long article from factcheck.org. So let's see. What's the bottom line, man? What's the bottom line? Gain of function is a term that could describe any type of virology research that results in the gain of a certain function. But the type that's controversial, including among scientists, is research that causes a pathogen to be more infectious, particularly to humans. In 2014, the U.S. government put a pause on new funding of gain-of-function research, which it defined this way: with an ultimate goal of better understanding disease pathways, gain-of-function studies aim to increase the ability of infectious agents to cause a disease by enhancing its pathogenicity or by increasing its transmissibility. A 2016 paper on ethics of gain-of-function said the ultimate objective of such research is to better inform the public and preparedness efforts and or developmental of medical countermeasures. The pause intended to provide time to address concerns about the risks and benefits of these studies. Specifically, so they weren't even doing this shit. Specifically, the funding pause will apply to gain-of-function research projects that may be reasonably anticipated to confer attributes of influenza, MERS, or SARS. Oh, Jesus Christ. As the Nature article at the time explained, there had been fierce debate among scientists on what research should be deemed too risky, and some confusion on where the line would be drawn. Viruses are always mutating, the article said, and then it said that it is difficult to determine how much mutation deliberately created by scientists might be reasonably anticipated. So what he was saying was that they were manipulating the virus as a bioweapon. There's none of that shit here. It's fucking Jesus H. Christ on a bike. Right? So that's what I mean. That's why it was hurting my soul. Because you just swat down one bullshit, and then you have other fucking 5 different... Ow! That hurt! He just bit my hand. Stay over there. You're punished. Ow, you scumbag. Everybody, I'm getting bit. I'm getting hit. I'm getting assaulted. Oh my God. Haiku. That's funny, yes. Zenny, we had a guest on earlier who spoke of such things, and Tara's been spending 2 hours debunking the things he said, yeah. Because they just weren't, it's like, there's not enough time in the day. And there's like, do you know any Republican, who do you talk to on the Trump side? But do you see what I'm saying? It's always on us. When do they talk to us? When do they talk to, and what are we supposed to talk about? Right? First of all, I know we got to wrap it up. But it's like, oh, God. Got so much to say in too little time. All right, let's finish up with this. And they say, if you attack Trump, they're all being attacked as racists and Russian Well, are we wrong? I just went through the whole litany. Okay, and the FBI said there was influence in the 2016 campaign, the FBI and the Senate report, co-authored by Republicans, said, yeah, Russia did interfere in the 2016 election. That's not my fucking... Oh, I guess that's fake too. But the Wuhan lab, that's... Which, you know, you're telling me there's some kind of gain-of-function research permit, which was put on pause in 2014, we just read, all over the world while they discussed the how ethical it was and how dangerous it would be to, conduct this research. But I guess they're lying, because whatever. But Trump's not lying, you see. The guy with the fake university, the fake vitamin scam, the fake multi-level marketing vitamin scam, the fake veterans charity, he's not lying. The one who lied about his square footage on all of his sham properties, inflated or deflated depending on what kind of money he wanted. Jesus Christ. Okay, we're going to finish up with this, and then I need to go hit myself in the head with a hammer to cure my headache. Those in the program will know what I'm talking. No, I won't. I won't be drinking. There's a part in the AA Big Book that says, it's like hitting yourself in the head with a hammer to cure a headache. Don't worry, I'm just going to bed. I gotta feed the cats, the kittens. They're kittens. I have to feed them, socialize them. You want to see something? Actually. Just let's look at some cats for a second. So we can all calm down. Look at this little kitty. That's Spicy. Look how cute he is. That's little Spicy. Eating his breakfast this morning. I was sitting on my lap. He was a good kid. He's come a long way. I'll show you a picture of his sister. This is Salty. Salty. She's cute. Well, Spicy has a home waiting for him. But Salty needs a home. Anybody in New York City area wants a little Salty girl. She's very good. She's a good girl. She's cute. She's getting fixed. They're both getting fixed at the end of October. That's the first appointment I can get. Apparently there's a nationwide vet shortage. So they're being fixed, and then they'll get their vaccinations, and they're ready to go in about 3.5 weeks. So Spicy has a place to go, but Salty needs a home. Anybody in the New York City tri-state area wants a little Salty girl. She's cute. She's very loving. She really is a doll. She'll be a wonderful pet. She was born in a cemetery, like Judy Garland was born in a trunk. And she's cute. That's all I can say. She's goddamn cute. Her name is Salty. You can change it to whatever you want. And her brother is Spicy. They will be going their separate ways. But at first I thought, well, I need to adopt them together, because they're so bonded. But the fact is they're so different. Their personalities are so different. I think that it'll be better for them to be adopted separately. And they're only bonded because they're in the same cage, I guess. But then they love each other, but they'll get over it. Here's Spicy. But yeah, because I'm afraid that Spicy will, because he is a little bit more spicy, if they go together, then, because Salty is so easy, and she's very much, you could pick her up, kiss her, hold her like a baby. Now, Spicy's a little bit more spicy about that stuff. I'm afraid that someone will end up, whoever gets the, if they took both of them, they wouldn't put up with his shit. He really needs attention and patience. And it would be difficult to do that with the both of them. And there he is, a little spicy. All right, whatever. So here's a short article, and then we're we're all gonna go unconscious at the same time. We do everything together here on Tarabuster. It has, it's an article, which could be an argument, by Jennifer Rubin. She's a Republican. You know that? I never really liked her until she started talking true about Trump. But she wrote an article, Washington Post, titled, "Just How Racist is the MAGA Movement? This survey measures it." And that's what he was saying, that, Republicans are just called racist. Well, what do you call Democrats? Right? Demons. Yeah, everything but our names. We drink blood. We drink adrenochrome. Fucking ridiculous. And we're so corrupt that we vote for Biden, but can't you see? He's got dementia. And it drives me crazy. So, for example, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but Biden, whatever, he gave a speech, and in the speech, he every time I watch Biden, and I say, they're gonna clip that out. That's next thing you know. Of course, I'm correct all the time. They'll put up a clip from the speech where he stumbles over his words or something, and they'll say the tag on Twitter or whoever, the description will say, and these are coming from verified accounts, the accounts of monsters, Republicans, and it'll say Biden, crowd stands stunned while Biden loses it, or something like that. And, I watched that speech too. That's not what happened. But you're taking something out of context. You're making something you're pulling it out of your ass. And you're spreading it online. And that's supposed to be, that's fair fight? That's a fair fight. No, it's not. You're not disrespecting me. You're disrespecting your dumbasses, the stupids who believe in that, who watch your Twitter feed and see your stupid description and take it at face value. You see, I know better. And show me where that fucking happens on the left, where normal people do that to Republicans. We don't have to do that. We take their words right out of their mouths. Right? Remember when Sarah Palin was trying to squat in the White House? And Saturday Night Live took her verbatim and did a whole skit on it. They didn't change one goddamn word. That's how ridiculous they are. But, these Republicans, they just... Biden, the crowd stands stunned while Biden fumbles and stumbles. You disingenuous scums. Show me on this left where that happens. Where we take something out of Trump's mouth and say, and make it seem the exact opposite or something nefarious. He's doing that himself. We don't have to make shit up because the truth is far more concerning and far more offensive, really. So anyway, Jennifer Rubin writes for the Washington Post, it has been long understood that the MAGA movement is heavily dependent on white grievance and straight up racism. And the other thing is, I know, why is Donald Trump the big hero of the KKK? Why is David Duke praising Donald Trump? He's your man. You're in bed with David Duke and the KKK. You know, you're on the wrong side of history. Oh, but you're not racist. You're not racist. Don't call them racist. God, no. It's not like we don't have any other words to call them. Right? That's what I always say. It's not like we're at a loss for words. We have a fine vocabulary. We're not the morons who don't know where to put the apostrophe in YOU apostrophe RE. We're not the idiots who don't read books. All right? We're not the ones who ban books. We're the ones who are capable of functioning in a free, democratic, diverse society of different people, different pigments, all different kinds of pigments and shit. We're not that. So we got plenty of words to go on. Yeah, we could choose from a lot of words. We got the best words. Trump says he's got the best words, but all I keep hearing are the same old fucking bullshit. Like nobody's ever seen. What else does he say? It's horrible, terrible, very, very. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Help me. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay. It has long been understood that the MAGA movement is heavily dependent on white grievance and straight-up racism. Hence, Donald Trump's refusal to disavow racist groups and his statement that there were very fine people on both sides in the violent clashes at the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville. And now we have the numbers to prove it. The connection between racism and the right-wing movement is apparent in a new poll from the Public Religion Research Institute. Junior, what the hell, man? The survey asked respondents about 11 statements designed to probe views on racism. For example, quote, white Americans today are not responsible for the discrimination against black people in the past. The pollsters then used their answers to quantify the Structural Racism Index, which provides a general score from 0 to 1, measuring a person's attitude from 0 to 1, measuring a person's attitude on white supremacy and racial inequality, the impact of discrimination on African American economic mobility, the treatment of African Americans in the criminal justice system, general perceptions of race, and whether racism is still a significant problem today. Higher scores indicate more receptive attitude to racist beliefs. That's the other thing. If 90% of people with darker pigment vote Democratic, why? Why is that? Because we know that the racists, the Republicans, say that, oh, it's because Democrats are promising them free stuff, which is itself a racist trope, as if that's all people with darker pigment care about. We just want free stuff, so we can sit around lazy in our social safety net hammocks. Okay, so why is it? Okay, whatever. The results shouldn't surprise anyone paying attention to the MAGA crowd's rhetoric and veneration of the Confederacy. Yeah, that's another thing. Here's the quote. Among all Americans, the median value on the Structural Racism Index is a 0.45, near the center of the scale, the poll found. The median score on the Structural Racism Index for Republicans is a 0.67. It's more than a 20-point jump. Yes. So it's for the structural racism, it's a 0.67 for Republicans compared to a 0.45 for independents, which is right in the middle, and a 0.27 for Democrats. Put differently, Republicans are more likely to buy into the notions that whites are the victims. The poll also found that the religious right, or the religious group that makes up the core of of today's GOP and MAGA movement, has the highest structural racism measure among the demographics surveyed. White evangelical Protestants have the highest median score of 0.64, while Latter-day Saints, white Catholics, and white mainline Protestants have a median of 0.55. They're still racist, but, you know. By contrast, religiously unaffiliated white Americans score a 0.33. This is true even though whites report far less discrimination toward them than racial minorities do. The survey also captured just how popular the lost cause to rewrite the history of the Civil War and downplay or ignore the evil of slavery is on the right. Republicans overwhelmingly back efforts to preserve the legacy of the Confederacy. That's at 85%. Compared with less than a half of independents, 46%, and only 1 in 4 Democrats, 26%. The contrast between white Republicans and white, they're talking about Democrats, white. They're talking about white, not just all Democrats, white Democrats, okay? White Republicans, white independents. The contrast between white Republicans and white Democrats is stark. Nearly 9 in 10 white Republicans compared with Democrats. So we're talking about 87% of white Republicans compared to 23% of white Democrats support efforts to preserve the Confederacy. Americans who fully support reforming Confederate monuments have a much lower structural racism index score, while those who oppose it have a much higher score. The same is true when it comes to renaming schools honoring individuals who supported slavery and racial discrimination, or changing racist mascots. Hey, that's our heritage. Fucking assholes. God, I hate them. Oh no. I'm shutting them out. No, I'm only shutting out morons. Oh, okay. Stop. Those who want to keep Confederate monuments and offensive mascots in place, because freedom, might deny that their views have anything to do with bigotry, but then again, it's just our legacy, a heritage. Then again, they might deny the legacy of racism and paint whites as victims. In general, MAGA forces have one goal when they amplify replacement theory or fuss over corporations promoting inclusivity: to maximize white anger and resentment. Robert P. Jones, who leads PRRI, tells me while this result may seem surprising or even shocking to many white Christians, it's because we do not know our own history. If we take a clear-eyed look at our history, we see widespread, centuries-long Christian defense of white supremacy. He adds, for example, every major Protestant Christian denomination split over the issue of slavery in the Civil War, with Methodists, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, and Baptists in the South all breaking fellowship with their northern brethren. Given that history, Jones says, it's hardly a surprise that a denial of systemic racism is a defining feature of the white evangelical today. The PPRI poll shows the MAGA movement has done a solid job convincing the core of the GOP base that they are victims. And let's be clear, an aggrieved electoral minority that believes it's been victimized and is ready to deploy violence is a serious threat to an inclusive democracy. Yeah, I think that's more of a threat than not allowing a filthy fucking lie coming from the ass of a con man to fester and stink up goddamn social media sites. What do you think? Junior. All right, guys, I gotta go. I gotta go to bed. I can't take it anymore. I need to be unconscious. And I will need to say yet again, become a patron at patreon.com/Tara And thank you, Tony Brasunas. And your interesting, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for a lively conversation. And I want to thank you, Jim. And thank you, Ron and Martin and Richard W. Richard W., I missed you when you first got in there. Another great show, Tara. Thank you, Richard. It's only great because you're here helping me out. Ow! God, fuck. I can't take it anymore. I'm getting bit. I'm getting bit by my own cat. I'm getting bit. He's biting me. All right, listen, guys. It'll be fun. Friday, we're going to get together again. And thank you, Haiku, for being a moderator, and Jim for being a moderator. And all right, listen. I can't believe how late it is. Right? But what was I going to say? We will win. That's right. You know it. Because whatever. Truth is, we're on the right side of history, right? Stop that. We're on the right side of decency, dignity, and democracy. Now, we will be getting together again on Friday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, until that time, we stick together, we win. Become a patron at patreon.com/Tara. I'll get those mugs in the mail. If you want a mug and you're a supporter of the show, please send me an email at tarabustermedia@gmail.com and I'll send you a mug. All right, my friends? We stick together, we win. My name is Tara Devlin. Here's my cat. Right? Listen to him. Say, hello. All right. All right, guys. I'll see you very soon. Hey! Ow! You're hurting me. You're biting me.